Ooh, that's loud. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 5th, 2013 Lawrence City Commission meeting. Thanks for coming tonight. We started with a study session at 4 o'clock, and the next item on our agenda is to have a couple of proclamations. The first one is to celebrate the Marine Corps' birthday. I think we have somebody here to speak to that this evening. Good to see you again, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commission. I'm Irv Hodges, and some 20 years ago, I was one of the members of the city who met in this commission room and started this thing, and we're now been going on, and we're up at the Dole Institute on Friday at 10:30, Friday the 8th at 10:30, and there'll be about 200 veterans, friends, Marines, to again recognize that the Marine Corps has been around for 238 years, and it was founded in a tavern in Philadelphia, and but we're meeting now in the Dole Institute of Politics. So
You're moving on up. Well, Irv, I want to say thanks for your service to our city, of course, and to our nation. And I'm honored to read this proclamation. Whereas the United States, excuse me, that's the wrong one. Whereas on November 10th, 1775, the Continental Congress authorized the forming of 2 battalions of Marines. And whereas Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, was the first recruiting office created on that day. And whereas many Lawrence citizens and city employees have followed in the footsteps of those first recruits and other Marines by serving their country throughout the world. And whereas many years these former Marines have hosted a birthday celebration for the United States Marine Corps, inviting all the citizens of Lawrence and all Marines. And whereas on November 8th, 2013, the United States Marine Corps will be celebrating its 238th anniversary. And whereas on this day, Marines all around the world will be celebrating 238 years of honor, courage, and dedication to duty. And whereas this year's birthday celebration will be held at the Dole Institute of Politics in Lawrence, Kansas at 10:30 a.m. on Friday, November 8th, 2013. Now therefore, I, Michael Dever, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 8th, 2013 to celebrate Marine Corps Birthday in Lawrence and invite all citizens of Lawrence and Marines to join together to drink a toast to the Corps on Friday at 10:30 a.m. Thanks. Thank you. All right, next is to proclaim the week of October 11th through the 15th as International Education Week. And do we have somebody here to receive this proclamation? Hi.
Hi, I'm Allison Watkins, the Office of International Programs at KU.
Do you have anything to add? Have you read the proclamation?
I have. That speaks for itself.
Is it self-explanatory? Oh, great.
I think so.
Thank you for coming this evening, and I will go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas the United States attaches great significance to the principles of international education and the role that education plays in building and strengthening mutual understanding with our neighbors around the globe, and whereas in partnership with the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of State, the state of Kansas and the city of Lawrence is celebrating International Education Week, November 11th through the 15th of 2013. And whereas celebrations and activities in Kansas and across the United States will provide a forum for promoting the benefits of international education and will demonstrate the strong belief that international education and exchange, public diplomacy, have a critical role in U.S. foreign relations in the new millennium. And whereas approximately 9,200 students over 100 countries around the world are now studying in Kansas, and over 3,000 Kansas students will study abroad this year. Now therefore, I'm Michael Dever, Mayor of the City of Lawrence, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of November 11th through the 15th, 2013 as International Education Week in Lawrence and urge all citizens to join in this observance. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and all matters on the consent agenda will be considered under one motion and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussions on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Are there any items that a member of the commission would like removed from the consent agenda?
Mayor, item 3, the claims for voting purposes only.
Claims, very good. 21. Is that it?
10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay, anything else from the commission? Is there any other item that anyone from the public would like removed from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. This is complicated, so I'm going to say that we are going to add claims to vent 283 vendors, not including Rock Chalk Park related items, of $3,566,757.97, and minus item 21, and then 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is there a motion to approve that? Well, I'm gonna, okay, yeah, you're right, sorry. And payroll of $1,866,334.27. Is there a motion?
Mayor, Commissioner, would you just have claims voted on separately, because I need to abstain from the claims?
Okay, all claims. Okay, very good. So let's just go ahead and do the consent agenda minus those items that I just said, which were, are you talking about these claims, the vendors? Or claims on 3, which you want removed, right?
Well, wait,
Which one is it?
Commissioner Shaw, there's a city payment to Shum Foods, who was the little bit on the United Way picnic. It's on the list of claims. I think what we can do is we can vote for all of the claims, less Rock Chalk Park, and you can abstain from that.
Okay, so consent agenda. Wait a second. Yeah, that's not right. So, but he can't vote, then it'll be only 3 votes. Is that enough?
That's okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we're making a motion then to approve the consent agenda without 10, 11, 12, 13, and 21.
Correct.
The claims, less Rock Chalk Park, and including the payroll.
I think that's right, yes.
Does that cover it? That's my motion.
That's correct.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Farmer, seconded by Vice Mayor Amix. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Okay, so that motion passes 4 with Commissioner Shum abstaining, 4-0. Let's see.
You need Rock Chalk Park.
Now, we need to add back claims to Rock Chalk Park related items of $17,484.38. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1 with Vice Mayor Amix dissenting. And finally, I think that covers everything. Now we're going to go to item 10, 11, 12, and 13. Bob.
Just staff make a quick presentation. Would staff make a quick presentation on that?
I'll show you the map. Commission in a minute. Scott McCullough with the Planning and Development Services Department. Essentially, item 10 is a request to annex a portion of property with the Menards project that has been in the works for several months now. I'll show you where that is in a minute, just kind of running down the items though. 11 would initiate annexation of 21 acres along the Naismith Valley Creek north of 31st Street. This is submitted by the city of Lawrence, which I'll show you on the map here, as part of a negotiation for property that also accommodates the city's utility property. Number 12 is initiate annexation of 14.53 acres. This is south of Holmes along West 29th Terrace between Missouri and Bellhaven. This is submitted for, again, in the area of the Menards property. This is a private development. I'll show you again on our area concept plan here in a moment. And 13 is approving a request for rezoning to the Community Regional Floodplain Overlay District for property I'll show you here. So this is a piece of property commonly known as the Snodgrass parcel that is for your consideration to actually annex this evening. It was processed to the Planning Commission last month with a request to rezone to the Community Regional Commercial Zoning District.
Okay, so that's number 10 and number 13?
Yes, I believe that is correct. Yes,
Yes.
thank you for following.
Annex and then rezone.
Then this property, is this for annexation?
That's the 21.17 acres for
Okay.
annexation that was recently donated to the city.
That's number 12.
Correct.
Well,
No, that's number 11. It's number 11.
Right.
Okay.
this is the other parcel
That's number 12.
to initiate the annexation. It has an accompanying rezoning that together, the annexation and rezoning will go to the Planning Commission and back to the City Commission for actual review consideration at a later date. So this essentially is private property, this is city property, and this is private commercial property. This would get RM district zoning, I think 12 probably. RM 12D is the zoning request. This would likely get the open space zoning with the floodplain overlay, and this is the community regional, which is what Menards received when they were processed with the floodplain overlay. And so we posted this map, which gives you all of those together, and then a second page, which also shows you just more. So here was where we were looking here. This shows you a little bit more of 31st Street alignment and how that works with the SLT that's going to be under construction soon.
Got it. Any questions or, okay. And is there any public comment on items 10, 11, 12, or 13? All right.
I'm ready to move here.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'd move approval of item number 11, which is to initiate the annexation of 21.17 acres. Want to do one at a time?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, Mayor, I would motion to approve item number 12, which is to initiate the annexation of 14.53 acres, A1300437.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And then 13?
I'm done moving.
Okay, now we need a motion on 10.
I would make a motion to approve the request to annex approximately 9.842 acres located at 1352 North and 1300 Road.
Okay, is there a second?
Adopt on first reading 8934, ordinance 8934.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Amix, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
A motion, motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Shum dissenting.
I move
And
approval of C-13-00337 from County A to CRFP, and on first reading, ordinance 8935 and 8939.
Second.
motion by Commissioner Farmer, seconded by Vice Mayor Amix. All,
Point of information,
Yes.
please. The reason why I'm voting no on 10 and 13 is I voted no on the Menards rezoning. I feel that we're overloading this particular district with commercial. It needs to be spread across the city more in order to balance the growth of the city. This is only going to exacerbate that even more because that's going to be commercial property, so I'll continue to vote no.
thank you, sir. So it was a motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Shum dissenting. All right, and then, last but not least, Jeremy, number 21.
So receiving correspondence from a property owner in the 800 block of Ohio Street. They said that they did not get notification from Kansas Department of Health and Environment regarding the tearing up of the pavement. So I'd like to ask that we defer this issue to give them some more time to do some research, correspond with KDHE, and figure out what we might be able to do to make sure that the investment that the property owners are making in those blocks of Ohio Street and Old West Lawrence would be, that we'd be able to get the street back. We got some correspondence from Dave and Chuck, and I guess Chuck, my question is, I'd like to defer it, but my question is there any way that we can get the brick streets, and we just got the email right before the rental registration thing, so I didn't have a chance to read it, but is there any way to get the brick streets back to kind of maintain the integrity of the neighborhood?
Typically, these monitoring wells aren't necessarily put in the street. They'll put it behind the curb, but it's in the right of way. So, people refer to in the street, but they try and stay out of the pavement part. If they do go in, it's only a 6 to 9 inch diameter hole that they'll drill, and that will be surface mounted well. So it won't be that significant. When they go to plug the well, they'll put back the bricks as necessary. So it's not going to be that.
Well, not to be disrespectful in any way,
Sure.
but my experience is that they'll have to put groundwater collection devices. They may be simply monitoring accumulation wells where they can collect it, draw it out, clean it up, pump it back in. There's also, sometimes they put in trenches below grade, so they do have to tear up the road, but they'll put it back, and then they'll draw from the trenches below grade. So there's a chance that they might do more.
They might.
Because they say groundwater collection, to collect contaminated groundwater from.
The ones that we've
says
been involved with
collection
here,
equipment. Yeah.
like, in the
Yeah.
recent past, have just been that 6 inch to 9 inch diameter holes that they'll drill down and they'll pump some water out of them, and they'll
So
continue
say
to
though
test
that
them.
the street gets torn up,
If it gets torn up, Mark Teal, our Assistant Public Works Director, and Tony Wheeler have been working on this for about a year, trying to resolve this as far as insurance and stuff. It's finally resolved, and the agreement would go ahead and commit the owner or the contractor that's doing the work to repair. That's going to be part of the right-of-way agreement anyway, the license agreement.
okay, I'd like to just have another week to.
That'd be fine. I think that's good. Then we can get a diagram of where they're going to put these
Sure.
collection systems. And
That'd be great.
if they're going to put a trench in and allow the groundwater to accumulate and suck it out.
Sure.
That could happen.
Is that-
It could be bigger.
Is that fair?
Mayor, I move deferral for 1 week.
Okay.
Do 2 weeks?
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Second.
Friendly amendment. All right, motion to, I guess, can we wait 2 weeks?
I'm not aware of an urgency in this situation. I think they want to get this resolved, but we've been working with them for some time, so.
Okay.
I think you've got.
Maybe we can just get an understanding of what type of damage they're planning on doing so we can assuage the landowners in the area. I have a motion to table this item for 2 weeks by Commissioner Shum. Who seconded it?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Amix. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Boy, that took 23 minutes. City Manager's report.
23 items in it, too.
Good evening, Mayor. Members of the Commission will try and move this along rather quickly.
It's my bad.
We've added some aerial photos that were taken last week out at Rock Chalk Park. I think you see a lot of progress in regards to the construction that has occurred out there. We have the third quarter budget report that Casey Toomey, our budget manager, has prepared. Casey is here. She is prepared to walk you line by line, dime by dime as appropriate, but would commend the report to your reading, particularly the summary that we are managing our expenditures within revenues. Got any number of different challenges and any number of different funds, but I think you all are generally familiar with those. Don't have any particular new surprises for your consideration, but you can see that we've got a number of issues in play, and we're continuing to monitor expenditures. Revenues have been adequate but not robust. Keeping with that theme, we've got the October sales tax distribution. It was down just a little bit from last year's. Again, we're pretty close to being on target for budget. The city received notification from the Department of Transportation that we have been awarded an Intelligent Transportation System grant. Never been fond of that euphemism, but it's what it is. And We're going to be able to link and synchronize some of our traffic signals along Clinton Parkway. So you'll be presented with that at a future agenda. Successful Halloween activities. Thank you all for proclaiming that here a while back. And we had a good turnout at a number of parks and recreation facilities in regards to that. And then successful work on the compost and wood chip work that the Solid Waste Division had here back in October. And Commissioners, I would like, if you could just let me indulge myself here just a little bit. This is Jonathan Douglas's last City Commission meeting in Lawrence. It's been my privilege to work with him and to know him these past 8 years. I think a lot of him as a person. I think a lot of him as someone in municipal management. And I think we're all going to think a lot of him as a city manager. So congratulations to him. Best wishes to him and his family. We joked a little bit about what it will do to our census as the Douglas family leaves Lawrence. But it's been my privilege and honor to work with him, and I hope that you will join me in recognizing him.
Yeah, thanks.
And he gets to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yes. Jonathan, yes, you've been around as long as I've been doing this, and I don't look forward to doing it without you, but I'm really, really happy for you. I think it's a great opportunity. We'll miss you in Lawrence, but appreciate all the hard work. You've made us look smart on every week. We thank you for that.
I appreciate all the kind
Sure.
words and the years of mentorship and great experiences I've had with several city commissions and a couple of city managers and a lot of other great people.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Is that all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's not
I'm
real
feeling
good.
sad. Well, it makes me sad. He's a good guy. We need good people like him. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to receive a presentation from the Pedestrian Coalition.
Am I going to be able to use this? Can you help me set it up? I don't know if there's something on the screen here. I don't want to interfere. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, while they're doing that, if you have a cell phone, please make sure it's on silent or vibrate. And the public comment for all these regular agenda items is 4 minutes, and at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, if I remember, I'll push this button and it'll go off and remind you that you need to wrap it up. Hello, Laura.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Laura Ruth, and I am here this evening to present on behalf of the Lawrence Pedestrian Coalition. We are a joint effort of the League of Women Voters and the Lawrence Association of Neighborhoods. I thank you for granting us time on tonight's agenda. Our objective in sharing a policy memo is to offer what we believe are low-hanging fruit, or things that we as a community can do or start to do now to improve pedestrian safety and access in Lawrence. To begin, rather than read you the memo that is in your packet, I'd like to highlight just a few of the recommendations that we've made that we really feel should be prioritized. The first is that we need robust implementation of the Complete Streets policy to include a pedestrian plan, design guidelines, and a strategy for funding needed improvements. Complete Streets frames a vision. We now need to figure out how to implement it. Second, we urge the city to continue improvements to and repair and infill of the sidewalk network, including safe crossings, prioritization of sidewalks on arterial streets, and infill for known preferred pedestrian pathways, or as we call them, goat paths. And this is not just about putting in rec paths either. We are asking that the city tend to basic pedestrian infrastructure in the city core so that people can safely walk to work, to school, and to shopping. Third, we believe that there needs to be better coordination between traffic safety, public works, law enforcement, and planning. Road building and traffic management should not occur in a vacuum. Pedestrian injuries and fatalities in our community are far too common. We believe that broader collaboration between city departments is key to improving safety and access. This evening, I'd also like to share with you some real-life, real-time examples of the challenges and hazards that pedestrians in Lawrence face. The following pictures were provided by residents of Lawrence that connected with the Lawrence Pedestrian Coalition through our Facebook page or by email or monthly meetings. We are grateful for the continued interest and concern that Lawrence pedestrians have shown. As you look at these pictures, please consider what it would be like to traverse these pathways as an elderly person using a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair. Consider walking these sidewalks as a person with a disability. Imagine trying to navigate your way as a small child on a bike or a trike, or as a mom or dad pushing a stroller. That's one of our goat paths. I think it used to be a brick sidewalk, but there's not much left of it. This is a common one for my neighborhood in the Centennial, because we don't really have any sidewalks, folks walk in the streets. And although I do love trees, and in no way, shape, or form am I advocating that we cut trees down, sometimes trees and sidewalks don't get along so well, and it definitely creates some hazards. I'd also like to share some of the comments that we have received describing life as a pedestrian in Lawrence. These comments reflect conditions all over town, East Lawrence, Centennial, Prairie Park, even west of Iowa. This is just a sampling of the dozens of comments that we have received. There are some terrible sidewalks near my house. I can't even push my baby's stroller down them. There are so many bad sidewalks within a block of my house, I walk in the street most of the time. I walk everywhere with 2 small children and a stroller. I hate going down that part of 21st Street that doesn't have a sidewalk. When a citizen does actually attempt to negotiate the city on foot, they find themselves standing in the mud or on street corners, walking along or in major roadways without sidewalks and taking their life in their hands. I'm a dad with a child who takes a 2-mile walk every morning with a dog and a stroller. We have to walk in the street most everywhere we go. Sometimes drivers aren't so courteous either. I love that there is a sidewalk now by the Baymont Inn on the east side of Iowa, but how does a middle school age pedestrian walk south from the McDonald Drive, North Iowa area? Dangerously, that's how. There is no safe crossing to get from Prairie Park area to the wetlands or to the trail across K10. A safe way to cross Haskell and K10 is needed. This is my favorite one. I have a 2-year-old daughter at home that will someday be asking to walk to Veterans Park. It would be wonderful to be able to say, go ahead, just stay on the sidewalk. In closing, I'd like to ask for a show of hands from those folks in the audience tonight who have attended to demonstrate their support for Lawrence pedestrians and the recommendations provided. Collectively, we believe that a safer, more accessible pedestrian network in Lawrence is not only possible, but it is necessary and it is long overdue. We are confident that the City Commission cares about pedestrian safety and wishes to take forward steps to improve our community's walkability. We thank you for your consideration of our comments and ideas, and please let us know how we can help.
Thank you. That was a good presentation.
Glad to entertain any questions if you
Yeah,
want.
I was going to say, does anyone have any questions for Laura? And
Laura, couple things. I know you guys were talking about initially a walk audit for the community. Can you touch on that, and is that still going on?
You know,
or
we briefly
happening?
discussed it at one of the early meetings, Jeremy, and one of the things that we came up against, we have some resources, there's a pedestrian map, a sidewalk map the city has that's pretty out of date. And it was fairly difficult to organize individual neighborhoods to update because we don't really have standard metrics, and it would be futile to do it unless everybody's doing it the same way.
Mhm.
So, you know, one of the requests that we would certainly make, and we've talked to David Corliss and Chuck Souls about this, is that map really does need to be updated in order for us to really get a handle on baseline conditions. You know, obviously what I'm sharing with you tonight is anecdotal, but we are an ad hoc volunteer group of people that just want to be able to walk safely, and we don't really have a lot of resources other than, you know, good intentions and a monthly meeting and a Facebook page that is remarkably popular. I got probably 30 comments in the last 12 hours of people asking me to bring messages forward.
Dave, when was the last time that a sidewalk audit was completed?
We have a sidewalk condition map that I think was done, 2006. We've made a few attempts at updating it. I think one of my suggestions, commissioners, is I appreciate the interest, and I think the one thing that I would correct is Laura said that she knows the city commission's interested in this issue. That's true, but so is city staff. We're very interested in that. I think it'd be good for us to meet with this group and plot out some strategies and some tactics about how we can improve sidewalks. We've devoted a lot of resources to it. We want to put more resources at it. One of my more significant concerns when I look at the city landscape and the city services that we provide is that we do not adequately maintain our sidewalk network. I've had a few ideas in the past in regards to that, and we haven't been able to successfully move forward in getting additional resources at that issue. But we know that it is an issue that needs additional attention, and I know that Laura's group has been meeting, and I'm pleased that they've communicated with you. I'd like to meet with them along with Chuck and some other staff people as well, see if we can't talk about some of those concerns and come back with a report. As you know, we got this letter late Thursday, so we haven't had a chance to develop any response.
Yeah. Well, it's hard, you know, the whole conundrum of the sidewalks are owned by the adjacent property owner, and we don't really have responsibility for them. I think the first thing we need to do is solve that problem. Whatever. Dave's had some ideas in the past, and before we can really take control of the problem, we have to take responsibility and/or ownership of the problem. And these sidewalks are basically the individual landowner's responsibility for the majority of them in town, and other than the rec paths that Laura mentioned, you know, a lot of them, you know, unless we own them, we can't make people do anything until we put in new improvements, or, you know, or there's development of that street, or the older neighborhoods, there's just no need for it except for the need for a sidewalk. So there's no call for it except for the need for sidewalks. So I guess the first step would probably figure out how we manage that problem. And then how do we manage the clearing of them in snow, and there's the other things that add up. But I think that we probably, this is something that I've watched for a while now, and I think we probably need to resolve that problem once and for all, is figure out how we take ownership of the problem, and then how we fund the gap network and fixing that gap.
Is that something we might be able to direct Dave and staff to come up with some suggestions for how we take ownership of that issue?
Yeah, I've heard some before, so it'd be good to share them again.
There's some out there.
I think it would be good. I think we want to make it clear. We are contacting property owners on a weekly basis, telling them to fix sidewalks.
Yeah.
I don't want to change that message at this point, because we're getting some level of compliance. But I think we do want to talk long-term about how we can get at that issue, how we can have better data, and how we can put the resources, and we do put considerable resources at putting in sidewalks in the right spots. But I think one of the first steps is to meet with that coalition.
Yeah.
And begin that discussion.
So that's, we can move to direct staff to meet with the coalition and formulate some.
Mayor, I move that we
strategies.
direct staff to meet with the
Thanks a lot,
coalition
Jeremy.
and formulate a
Hanging.
plan to improve the sidewalks in Lawrence, Kansas.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Farmer. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, public comment, of course. This is a presentation. Thank you.
My name is Carol Bowen. I live at 403 Dakota Street. We do have a major stumbling block as far as who's going to pay for what and how we're going to maintain sidewalks. But we also have a big stumbling block with mindset. And that's something that we need to see some leadership from you. The staff is well versed in different types of things that they could do, but if they don't hear the leadership from you, it's not going to go anywhere. Things like granting variances instead of saying, no, you've got to put the sidewalk in. Or expecting more updated design for parking lots and new developments that accommodate pedestrians. One of the comments that we had on the Facebook was, why don't we have sidewalks from the street to Walgreens or from the street to Checkers? Or the street to Target from the bus stop, for heaven's sakes. We just don't think that way. The roundabout that was requested at 9th and New Hampshire, I thought about that and I thought, that could be a great pedestrian refuge. It could be a great place for bicycles. Why do we think of it as something of a barricade like we did at something in Barker? Why did we make a barricade out of it? Why don't we make something that's more aesthetic? And then I saw the concept for another roundabout out Clinton Parkway somewhere. And I looked at it and the whole thing was planned for cars, period. There was no discussion of anything else. What happens to the pedestrians? What happens to the cyclists? Where's the bus stop? Why aren't we including these? Why aren't we thinking in a more comprehensive way instead of creating more problems? We do this so frequently. When I come to City Hall, every time I give staff grief because this City Hall is not accessible. And I spent about half an hour trying to decide how I was going to get here, and I was going to get here. This time I chose the parking lot up here because it's more level. The parking lot down there has a long, high incline. It's not well lit, and there's no button on the door at the end of City Hall down there. At least last time I checked, there wasn't. So I went from the parking lot across the street, and I counted the number of inclines that were at least 30 degrees, and there were 4 or 5 of them, right up to the City Hall door. Not only that, there was a trash can on the handicap ramp in the parking lot. That was handy for the trash cans, not so handy for the pedestrians. Now, I don't want you using me as an excuse. What my handicap does is make me more aware of what every pedestrian has to experience. And we are not the only community that is having this issue across the nation. Everybody's trying to deal with it. And many communities have the same financing mechanism that we do. But that doesn't mean we should follow them. We need you to take a strong lead. We need you when things come to you to think about it in a more comprehensive fashion. Transportation is not just automobile. When you look at that concept for that new roundabout, and I'm not against roundabouts, and I don't know anything about that geographic area, why is it 2-lane? What's wrong with the road diet? Why is our traffic going at 30 miles an hour when we know that psychologically 25 miles an hour makes drivers more aware of what's around them? This is the kind of thing we need you to think about. It's not politically safe necessarily. We have a whole community to educate. But we need to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Dan Dannenberg, 2702 University Drive. Just a thank you to the city for providing the Lawrence Pedestrian Coalition meeting space in the Carnegie Library for the monthly meetings. That's much appreciated.
You're welcome. Any other public comment? Okay. All right, so we were talking about having staff meet with the coalition, kind of get some make some progress moving forward.
Good idea.
So, was there, what are you looking at?
No, yeah. He moved, I seconded.
Have to do it again, so.
Could I make one additional comment here? I think Carol Bowen made mention of the agenda item we're going to hear here in a few minutes about the roundabout. And I do want you to know that the staff says in our memo, and I just clicked on the diagram of it, says staff is proposing this section of Wakarusa Drive be constructed with 10-inch concrete on a fly ash-treated base with two-way left turn lanes, curb and gutter, storm sewer, bike lanes, and sidewalk on each side of the roadway. So, I mean, we are paying attention to the pedestrian and the bikes and everything else. Regardless of what anyone thinks about roundabouts, their project coming to us tonight that we're going to discuss does include a lot of those things that we're worried about. So the projects that we're dealing with that are coming on board now, we're very sensitive to the complete streets policy and the fact that bicyclists, walkers, joggers, rollerbladers, and whatever kind of transportation you use should be able to use them equally. So anyway, just I thought I'd bring that up because I didn't want you to think that the staff is not watching for that and it's not is insensitive to the situation. So with that, I'm ready for a vote.
So you moved?
I moved and Jeremy seconded.
Motion by Commissioner Sum, seconded by Commissioner Farmer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thanks again to the coalition and look forward to getting some direction here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Next item is to consider approving a taxi cab license for Christopher Turner doing business as Party on Wheels.
Good evening, Commissioners. At the meeting 2 weeks ago, a couple of our local taxi cab companies asked you to deny a license to Mr. Turner and his taxi cab company. They asked you to consider the systems of transportation already in service and whether they are serving the needs of the community. I have provided you with the city code language that they cited. That's in your memo. I can tell you, to help your analysis, that the city currently has 5 companies with a total of 18 vehicles licensed. Mr. Turner has met the code requirements for a license, including the insurance, and we recommend approval of the license. We're currently working on a rewrite of the taxi cab code. It is over 50 years old, and we believe it needs to be modernized. Traditionally, the purpose of city licensing has been protect public health, welfare, and safety. And our intent would be to amend the code to more clearly reflect that purpose. But in any case, I'm here, happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Any questions?
Jonathan, have we ever had a denial of a cab license?
We had a denial a few years back, I think it was before I was city clerk, for someone who, if I recall the history correctly, we had trouble ascertaining how many vehicles and what type of vehicles and just getting any straight information from them.
We just did not have a complete application for, the license to be approved.
Yeah, the code enforcement went back and forth with this individual and was not able to be satisfied with the information they were getting.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, Jonathan. Public comment on this item? Is the applicant here, Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you want to speak to the commission first?
Yeah. Well,
Usually the person who's asking for a license or has a question or brings a motion usually gets to go first and tell us about.
Hi, my name is Christopher Turner, and I think that taxi services are much needed in Lawrence, especially on the weekends. The overcrowding with the extra 60,000 people that we have in town for football games and stuff like that. Not only is it a convenience for it, but it applies to safety with the amount of people that are drinking and stuff on the weekends. I've been approved for a taxi cab license permit before, and I pretty much thought this would be a formality. So
You've had a license here previously?
Anyone may have.
So you've had a license here before?
Yes, I have. And like I said, I thought it was just a renewal process, but obviously there's been some objection to it, so.
Understood. Yeah, thank you. Any questions for him?
You've had a license in the city of Lawrence before?
Yes, I have. 2008 was when I was first licensed.
And it expired or you turned it back in?
It expired. I actually moved away for a while and my business ceased, and I just recently returned to Lawrence this year, so.
Is your cab business a traditional cab business where you have taxis?
I'm pretty much an independent right now, but after getting licensed and everything, I'm looking to expand, but for now,
For now, you have what kind of vehicle?
it's a minivan.
Okay. Just one?
Yes, just one vehicle.
Yeah.
Mr. Turner, what was the name of your business in 2008?
It was Party on Wheels because I was a party bus company then, and I was expanding to the taxi cab taxi cab side of things. But right now, I'm focusing just on taxi cabs, and I'm doing business as Safe Cab.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Public comment?
Good evening. My name is Sean Hofler. I'm the owner of Jayhawk Taxi. My only concerns would be for the safety of his customers as well as the public, to make sure that that insurance is actual commercial for taxi specifics. Personal insurance doesn't cover like a taxi, and insurance companies look for flaws to not pay out. So if they find out that he was running illegally, they wouldn't pay out, and there would be a lot of people hurt if there was to be an accident.
Sure.
That's my only concern. Thank you.
What's your name again?
Sean Hofler.
Sean, thank you very much. And Jonathan, we asked that question at the Monday morning meeting. Can you confirm whether or not his insurance is similar or adequate relative to the other taxi providers in town?
Yes, it is, and most importantly, it meets the provisions in the city code. We re-verified that again with the insurance company, and it meets what the city code reads.
All right, very good. Additional public comment?
My name is Brian Sorensen with Ground Transportation Services, and I guess the other concern that I have with Christopher is he, I think, uses this vehicle as his personal vehicle, and we have commercial vehicles that we have commercial insurance on, and that's all we do with it. And we know that he drives this vehicle as his personal vehicle throughout the day and then puts a taxi light on top of it and rides it for a taxi during the nighttime. And I don't know insurance-wise if that's something that you're able to do. I mean, all my vehicles are licensed up as commercial vehicles, and they're used for that purpose only, not as my personal vehicle when I'm not doing that. So I don't know if that's the right thing to do or what, but I think that's happening as well.
Brian? Sorry. Christopher, did you have a question or something you need to add? Sure, please, go right ahead.
Yeah, that comment is untrue. I have two personal vehicles. I have a truck, and also I have a car as well. So.
And is there any problem, you've been doing this before, have you had any issues with your insurance company using your car for personal use and then using
Nothing's been brought to my attention that that's an issue.
Okay, and then Jonathan, has that been brought to your attention previously?
No, but I don't believe there's any section of the code
We have no control over that.
that would disallow that.
Okay.
It doesn't
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
it doesn't say anywhere in the code that.
Okay, thank you.
That can happen about that.
So Brian, you were saying that just, you don't know if it is or it isn't, but it's something for us to note, take note of. Okay, all right, good deal. Is there any other public comment on this? Okay, commissioners, any questions or?
Well, I think that Mayor, I think that there's been some good questions, that's been brought up and good investigation over the last couple of weeks. I do think one of the things that's important here is that we do have people that have concern about the public safety and want to make sure that everything's followed. I appreciate the work that Brian and Sean brought forward and questions that they brought forward about our ordinance and stuff. And I appreciate work of staff and wanting to upgrade our ordinance, to become modern day. And so that, it does make sense as to when licensing happens, when it wouldn't happen. So after reviewing all of this, Mayor, I see no reason, at this point, why we would deny, a license for Mr. Turner. There's nothing here. He's met all the requirements that we have of the code. So.
Okay, so did you have one thing to add? Okay, please step up to the podium so everyone can hear you. Thanks.
My name's Sean Hofler again. The two things I would like to add would be, one, to physically know where his location of business is.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, how long it will be until the code gets rewritten to involve a federal tax ID number as well as the insurance requirements, because the code really doesn't specify the type of insurance.
Okay, Sean, thank you.
Thank you.
We can't really request from I mean, if it's not in this code, we really can't require people to provide that information, correct?
At the current time, that's not in the code.
Right, but we're going to write a,
We
right.
rewrite it
Okay, and we'll do that, but we can't require him to give us that information if it's not a part of the regulation, so.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. This feels like, gentlemen, I'm sorry, it feels like people not wanting competitors to come into our community. Because every time it's something else. And here's a guy trying to start up a business, and we all say that we want to grow our local economy and have jobs, and there you go. And so, you know, I'm enthusiastically going to support this license and hope that this business, like every other local business that we have, grows and does well and prospers in our community.
Okay, very good. No, that's good. I already broke the rules. Usually we don't let people get back and forth. Sorry, it's not up and down. So unless you want to hear from him, okay.
Could I have one question
Yes.
of John? Jonathan, would all the people that have license today that would seek renewal of their license, whenever the new code's written, would they have to comply with the new rules as laid out in the code, the new code? Or would they be grandfathered in under the existing code?
I think probably our intent would be if they have, currently, all the licenses expire at the end of the year. So it's conceivable we could have something before that time. I'm not going to promise that, especially since I won't be here. I'll make some recommendations, probably to Randy to take a look at the legal language there, but I don't know when it'll be back, but probably if they have relicensed, we wouldn't examine anything under the new code until they came back again.
Right, so to answer the question, when you renew your license, you have to meet the new requirements. I think that's the question.
Yeah.
The answer
If
is.
there's new requirements in place, then
Yes.
it's time to renew.
Okay. Very good. So this will be a short-term period until and if there's these requirements that are the people that do this for a living think we should have, and they're reasonable, then we'll put them in place, and then you'll have to adhere to them, right? All right, any other questions? Is there a motion?
I would move that we approve the taxi cab license for Party on Wheels by Christopher Turner.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Reardon, seconded by Commissioner Shum. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, everybody, for their input on this.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 3, which is to receive an update on the Wakarusa 2014 reconstruction project.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Dave Cronin, City Engineer in the Public Works Department. Tonight we are providing you an update on our Wakarusa project. This project's in the 2014 budget. It's being paid out of the infrastructure sales tax. Right now, currently, Wakarusa is a street, arterial streets, has significant base failures, and we have a lot of ongoing maintenance needs on the street. It's typically 8 to 10 inches of asphalt on untreated subgrade. And so that's causing a lot of the base failures. So we've begun working on design plans for improving the street to kind of our typical section with new concrete, pavement, new curb and gutters, improving the sidewalks. And tonight we are also additionally seeking guidance on improvements at the intersection of Wakarusa and Inverness/Legends Drive. And we put together a quick presentation on that, on the project as a whole, and Nick Voss, our project engineer, will present that to you. And if you have questions, David Woozler, our city traffic engineer, is here if you have any specific traffic questions, so I'll turn it over to Nick. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Nick Voss. I am a project engineer for the Public Works Department. I'm going to talk about the Wakarusa Drive reconstruction project for next year, and more specifically, the intersection of Wakarusa, Inverness, and Legends. For the 2014 year, from the infrastructure sales tax funds, we have $5 million total to spend. 1.85 million we have budgeted for Bob Billings reconstruction. Bob Billings would be reconstructed from Wakarusa Drive to Foxfire Drive. We also have 0.8 million for the reconstruction of 23rd and Iowa, and an additional 2.35 million for the reconstruction of Wakarusa Drive. As Dave said, the current condition of Wakarusa has high rutting, raveling, and base failures, and that's one of the big reasons why we want to do work in this area. The scope of the project includes reconstructing the pavement with concrete, adding a center left turn lane, bike lanes, new curb and gutter, storm sewer, and sidewalks. We'll use the same typical section that we used on the 2013 Wakarusa project, which will include 5 11-foot wide lanes, bike lanes, and sidewalk on each side. This project will increase bike connectivity, adding on to the existing bike lanes that we have on Wakarusa, and it's also in line with the city's complete streets policy. The existing intersection of Wakarusa, Inverness, and Legends is a 4-way stop. To the west of Wakarusa Drive, there's 2 dentists, Legends Drive Dental Center and Wakarusa Oral Surgery, and to the east is residential. The existing peak hour for this intersection is 620 cars northbound, 590 southbound, 190 eastbound, and 80 westbound. The level of service for this intersection is a C for northbound, southbound, eastbound, and westbound is a B. The level of service scale is an A to F scale. A is free flow, B is reasonably free flow, C is stable flow. Under condition C, lane changes require more driver awareness, but most drivers are comfortable. D is approaching unstable flow, E is unstable, and F is breakdown flow. The 3 options that are available for this intersection include a roundabout, a traffic signal, and a 4-way stop. City staff is recommending a roundabout. First, I'm going to talk about traffic signal, and then I'm going to go into more detail about the roundabout that we would propose. The traffic signal. For the cost of the traffic signal, it'll be about $500,000. This includes the pavement, the poles, and the lights. We would also need to widen Inverness and Legends Drive to allow for a left turn lane so that those 2 left turn actions could happen at the same time. The level of service for a traffic signal with current traffic volumes is northbound and southbound is both a D, eastbound and westbound is an A. The reason why it's a D, or one of the reasons why, is because the pedestrian phase for a traffic signal would require a pedestrian to cross 5 lanes of traffic and the bike lanes, and for that period of time, it would be a red light for north and southbound traffic. Next, I'm going to talk about a roundabout and the benefits, the lane configuration that we would use, how it would be constructed, how bike lanes are used in a roundabout, the cost, and I'm going to show you some examples of roundabouts that are the same as what we're proposing, and also how they compare to the roundabouts in Lawrence. First, for the benefits. One of the major benefits of roundabouts is slower traffic speeds. Because of the slower speeds, there's also less injury crashes, and they're safer for pedestrians and bikes. They also move traffic very efficiently, and they're in line with the city's complete streets policy. The graphic I have there shows vehicle impact speeds, how vehicle speeds affect pedestrian injury, And the faster you're going, you can see that it's much more severe for the pedestrian. Another benefit of roundabouts is the conflict points for both vehicles and pedestrians. What I have shown here is for a single lane. As you add lanes, the conflict points go up, but the amount of conflict points for a roundabout stays below what we would have for either a four-way stop or a traffic signal. For single lanes, you would have 8 conflict points for a roundabout and 32 for a traffic signal. And pedestrian conflict points, you would have 8 for a roundabout and 16 for a traffic signal.
Did you sneak that in last minute?
That was one of the things, yes.
Okay. I hadn't seen that before. Okay. Touche.
So what we're proposing for this intersection would have 2 lanes on Wakarusa and 1 lane on each of the side streets. As you're approaching on Wakarusa, you would drive it just like you would a four-way stop or a traffic signal. If you want to turn right, you would need to be in the right lane as you approach. If you want to turn left, you would need to be in the left lane. Through traffic, you could be in the left or the right lane. The level of service for a roundabout with the current traffic at that intersection would be an A in all directions. Construction sequencing, this was also something that was added later. The project would be constructed in 2 phases. The plan sheet on the right is from another roundabout project that was constructed that was close to what this one will be or would be. So you would be able to carry traffic on Wakarusa throughout the duration of the project. You would not be able to carry traffic on Inverness and Legends through the duration of the project. We would have to detour traffic along Bob Billings and then either through Inverness or Research Park Drive. We would be able to have one side open at a time, and while we're working on one phase, as soon as the roundabout phase or roundabout that part is constructed, we could open it to either a four-way stop or allow access to all points. One of the major concerns that we would need to make sure that phasing allowed for was to keep the section with I think it's an elementary school right there. We would need to make sure that that was constructed while school wasn't in session. The next thing we're going to talk about is how bike lanes use roundabouts. If you're riding your bike in the bike lane, approaching the roundabout, you have 2 options. You can go to the left and use your bike as a vehicle. A lot of bicycle riders do like roundabouts because they don't have to stop. And because of the slower speeds at a roundabout, experienced bicycle riders are comfortable navigating roundabouts. If you're not as experienced or not comfortable, you would also be allowed to exit to the right. The roundabout pictured is at O'Connell and 25th Terrace. You can see the ramps there. They would be able to exit the roundabout to the right and use the sidewalk as a pedestrian. If a 2-lane roundabout is selected, the city would need to acquire right-of-way and pedestrian easements. The graphic there shows the areas that we would need pedestrian right-of-way and easements. The black shaded in area is the sidewalk. Inside of that area is where we would need to acquire right-of-way. The total cost for a roundabout is would be the pavement and landscaping and pavement markings would be $350,000 plus the property acquisition. The inscribed circle is the driving area, so that's basically the diameter of the roundabout. So the 2-lane one that I talked about, or that we would propose, is 150 feet in diameter. Here are some examples of existing roundabouts we have in the city of Lawrence and their diameters. So if you know that you do like one or don't like one, you'll know how it compares. Castleton Tillerman is north of Peterson. Both of the roundabouts there are 130 foot. Clinton Parkway and Lake Point is 120 feet. Monterey Way and Harvard's 80 feet. 25th Terrace and O'Connell Road with the bike lanes that I showed is 130, 19th and Barker is 90, and Inverness in 24th Place is 100. We do not currently have any two-lane roundabouts in the city of Lawrence. Some that are the same size and have the same lane configuration include the one right next to Bass Pro Shop. This is in Olathe on Renner Boulevard. If you've been to the Bass Pro Shop there, you've been through this roundabout. Other examples include 37th and Wanamaker, and Prairie Star Parkway and Gleason Road in Lenexa. As we're deciding what we are going to do at this intersection, we also need to consider the intersection of Wakarusa and Harbor Road. It's currently a four-way stop. If a roundabout is constructed or if a traffic signal is constructed, we would likely propose the same thing for the for that intersection when we get to the point of reconstructing it. Before I get to the end, we did send out letters to the property owners against Wakarusa. I did receive 2 phone calls, and I told them that I would share what they had to say tonight. The first phone call was from a business that felt it was difficult to turn left onto Wakarusa. They did want a traffic signal in this area. When I talked to her, I said that some of the things that we would be able to do if we had a roundabout there, and she wanted a traffic signal because they kind of platoon cars. If we did have a roundabout, it would significantly decrease the speeds, so that would make it easier to turn. That we would also add a left turn lane, and for some drivers, that would make it easier for them to turn left. The other call that I got said that a roundabout wouldn't be his first choice, and he thought they would be fine. His concern was with how other drivers handle them, and he said if we do choose a roundabout, that he would be okay with that, and that we would need to do what we could to inform the public on how to drive them. If it is selected, we will have public meetings. The City of Lawrence's website currently has something on driving roundabouts, and we would do what we could to inform drivers on how to properly drive through a roundabout. And pending public comment and commission discussion, staff is requesting commission direction on intersection control for this intersection of Wakarusa and Legends Drive. And if you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to field them right now.
Any questions?
Nick, did you say the grade with the current four-way stop at this location was a grade level C?
It was C for 3 of the 4
north.
legs.
That's
and
what
it was a B for the other one.
Going north.
Okay.
B, I think is what you said.
The overall was a C then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't currently have any 2-lane roundabouts, full design like this in Lawrence, do we?
We do not.
Yeah, so the closest one in diameter is north, but it's still only a single lane rotary without any kind of second lane.
That's correct.
So it's totally different. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Public comment?
Good evening. My name is Alan Coles, and I live out in far west Lawrence, not far from this project or proposed project. And my first observation is that this intersection is really pretty quiet most of the time. Now, during the recent construction, especially at the intersection of 15th and Wakarusa, we had a lot of traffic diverted around that normally busy intersection, 15th and Wakarusa, and through this area. And yes, it was kind of nasty there for a while during that time when we could not use 15th and Wakarusa. But now it's pretty quiet, and I really have to wonder about these figures that have been given to you, because if they've been made at any time when that construction was going on, they really don't represent the final situation. In fact, we won't know what the final situation is going to be until the 15th and K10 interchange goes into effect. I tried to get a sense of what the people in far west Lawrence have, feel about this, and I think most are against it. And they're particularly opposed to the idea of having a roundabout there. A one-way roundabout would be very insufficient for the north-south traffic, especially at heavy times, and is just not a reasonable possibility. A two-lane roundabout, these are a nightmare. And I've driven these things in Britain, and in Britain, the British are experts at roundabouts, right? Well, in Britain, they can't handle the two-lane roundabouts. It's hard enough for a person to stay in lane even on a straightaway here. But when you get to a roundabout, staying in your lane requires particular attention to detail. And I don't think we're going to be able to do it any better than the British do it, and they don't handle these things well at all. And in addition, there's always somebody that thinks he's got to get ahead. He's got something very important to do. He's got to get ahead and dart around the other traffic in the roundabout or coming out of the roundabout. And this makes the thing a nightmare. But then in addition, we've got to handle those bikers or cyclists. And so that would make this a three-lane roundabout, which I think would be even more of a nightmare still. The project's going to cost about $350,000 for a roundabout, $500,000 for a traffic light, and at this point it seems to be really very much unjustified, and I recommend you not go any further with it at this time. The justification is lacking. There are lots of other things this money could be used for. The homeless shelter, Heartland Community Health Center, healthcare access, the library, and lots of charity projects. This is one project that just is not justified at this time. You can always get back into it later if you want to do that, and if it becomes apparent that this is necessary and well justified. So tonight, Commissioners, I recommend that you turn this project down. Come back to it later if you want to. And thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I was going to mention too, Adrian Del Nevo sent a letter to Mr. Voss. He couldn't be here tonight. He says, basically in conclusion, I did not see why there's any need to be any change in the existing configuration of Wakarusa and Legends. And hopefully Mr. Voss put a copy of that letter into your information for tonight. Thanks very much.
Can I?
Sure.
Dr. Coles.
Yes.
So I'm going to call you Alan since I know you well.
That's fine.
Please.
Doesn't matter.
So here's the situation which I'd like your comment back on. Obviously, staff's saying that there's a warrant there for some kind of additional traffic consideration either now or in the near future. I don't live as far west as you do, but I do live in the western part of the city. Seems to me like over the next few years, you're going to continue to see more and more traffic on our major arterial streets on Wakarusa as we develop further north across 6th Street and fill in more on the south part. So that's being a major northwest axis. It seems like to me, from what I've experienced over the years living there, is that those streets tend to fill up. Castle filled up, and Monterey Way, and Wakarusa. So at some point, either now or in the near future, there's going to be need for some kind of additional remedy for traffic moving through those intersections. So is it your opinion that the people there would rather have a traffic signal than a roundabout? Or are you just saying wait and restudy the whole thing at a later moment?
Well, I think we, incidentally, as you have more building, obviously there's going to be more traffic, although I think we're getting pretty well built up out there already. I think the people out in far west Lawrence, really, I got to admit, they are of two views, and that is traffic light or no project at this point at all. But they are particularly opposed to the roundabout idea, and I think they've got good reasons for that. They are really very opposed to the roundabout project.
Well, and just to make sure, nobody has ever driven in one in Lawrence. So if anyone hasn't been to England or into several of the newer, they've never driven in a two-lane roundabout, so they really don't know what it's like necessarily. Many people don't have a clue if they're judging it based on the other 4 examples of roundabouts we have in our community. Right? I mean, because they can be against something, but they've never, I don't know if they've ever done it in Lawrence before.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed some of that.
Two-lane, there are no other two-lane roundabouts. You were talking about how difficult it was in England. Well, maybe it's the English drivers you were having problems with. Meaning in Lawrence, maybe it could function. I don't have an opinion one way or another, but you're saying people are against it. Against what? Against the two-lane roundabout or any roundabout?
Any roundabout.
Right, there you go.
Any roundabout,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So
And I
no
think,
roundabout, no matter what it looks like, any shape, size,
Any shape,
no
size,
roundabouts.
Or color.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think in England, all the two-lane roundabouts that we got into were nightmares.
How about the
And
four-lane
we're not
ones?
concerned about the fact that the English all drive on the wrong side of the road. You know, that's not too much of a problem, but the two-lane roundabouts were just a nightmare.
Mr. Coles,
I think the people out there are very much opposed to any roundabout.
have you ever driven down Ward Parkway?
Which?
Ward Parkway in Kansas City?
Yes, I have.
That's a 3-lane roundabout.
I haven't been there recently.
It's been there since about 1950.
I
J.C.
don't
Nichols
remember
put it
enough
in.
to say anything.
Okay. The other thing, would the people that are against it would be the same people that were for roundabouts on Harvard? Because that was requested by the people that were on Harvard.
Against roundabouts just about everywhere.
Yeah. But the people, my understanding is, and staff, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason we put roundabouts on Harvard was because the people that lived on Harvard wanted to reduce the traffic speed, which this does, and they wanted to make it safer, which this concept does, and they requested it.
I think
Were you aware of
for
that?
instance, the roundabout on Harvard, which is
Harvard, there's about
Well,
3.
there's like, yeah, there's like 3 of them.
Harvard's between Monterey and Wakarusa.
Right, that's a one-lane roundabout where you usually only have one automobile on the roundabout at a time, simply because the traffic is so light in that area.
I was just wondering if the people that were against this one were the ones that were the same ones that were for those.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear.
That was requested by the people that lived on Harvard, and I was wondering if those people were against this. Or
Oh,
do you
we
know?
don't have enough of a sample to say anything about geographic distribution. They seem to come from all over the comments I've had.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Earl.
Does beg the question. How are you?
I wasn't even here for this discussion, but I felt like I ought to weigh in.
Jump
because
right
I
in.
live 3 houses from the intersection. So I'm here officially to take no position.
I like that. Me too.
Thank you very much. Next.
A couple quick comments. You know, I didn't come well prepared in terms of research to know what crash statistics say about that intersection. I can recall at least 3 occasions in which I have heard accidents from my house, you know, a couple hundred feet, not more than a couple hundred feet, but close to Quail Run at that intersection. So I know there have been some fairly serious accidents at that intersection. So I think taking some sort of action, you know, really is helpful at this point in time. I did take pause a little bit thinking about the 2-lane. It's not going south on Wakarusa, turning left onto Inverness and negotiating, getting into our right-hand lane for traffic. So I guess I need to take the class on, you know, how you negotiate.
It sounds a lot, Chris, it sounds a lot more complicated than it really is,
So I'm
because,
sure it's not
yeah,
that.
it's
I'm sure it's
actually
not that.
not as big as you think, but it's better than the single lane ones. Yeah, you're right, it's complicated until you really stare at how to use it. It's
Yeah,
it's
but I
complicated.
certainly, you know, I think there's room there, the addition of bike lanes, there are a lot of cyclists along there, slowing down traffic, you know, something needs to be done, and, you know, while I haven't research this specific plan in any detail. And I'm glad that you all are considering improvements to the intersection, regardless of which decision you all make.
Thank you.
Vicki Heckler, Lawrence, what else am I supposed to, want my address?
Sure.
1217 Prospect Avenue. I'm very pleased to hear that the resurfacing of Wakarusa is going to take place. I drive that frequently, and I had to put new front struts on, and I want them to last a few more years. So anyway, I like that idea, but my real reason for being here was to ask the question, you're going to widen the sidewalks, is that correct? Are they going to, I'm thinking 10 feet would be good. How wide are they going to be? 6 foot? Well, if you could find a few more bucks, why not make them 10? You know, because I see a lot of, I see a lot of pedestrian traffic out there, strollers, and I would imagine bicycles would like to be off of Wakarusa. But that's something you all can work out some other time. That's my 2 cents worth. And I had another request from a colleague back here suggesting 10 foot would be better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners recall that our design profile for Wakarusa is to have bike lanes on both sides of the street. We've already installed that north and south of Bob Billings Parkway, and we plan on continuing that. That's why there's no multi-use path along Wakarusa. Instead, there's the sidewalk at the 6 foot width on both sides.
And bike lanes.
Bike lanes.
And the ramp to get off the bike lane if one does not want to navigate the roundabout but chooses to be a pedestrian and cross at the pedestrian crosswalk.
Correct.
Which is nice if you ride the bike.
Dan Ranjbar, 48 Quillcrest Place. I work in the area and I drive Wakarusa pretty much every day. And I'm not sure where I shake out in terms of whether I'm for a circle or a stoplight or just leaving it with the stop sign the way it's currently configured. But that particular intersection seems fairly docile. I leave work, pull out, I hit that stop sign, and there's a couple cars in front of me. I end up going up to Wakarusa and Harvard, and that's completely backed up. So if the purpose of this is to kind of maybe move traffic along, is what I'm hearing, make it an efficient intersection, then I think what's going to end up happening is the Wakarusa and Harvard intersection is going to be slammed. Right now it's backed up, so if you're feeding more traffic into that intersection and you have a 4-way stop there, that's going to be pretty much untenable. I own a property that's a dental office right up, that's going to be directly affected by this. So how that's going to play out is a particular concern of mine. But I don't see the allocation of resources for this particular intersection taking a priority of other intersections in this community. So that's pretty much my 2 cents.
Yeah, and Dan, I want to point out, I had the same question since I live in the neighborhood, and the engineers want to try and design the road so there's the same type of intersections at both Harvard and at Inverness. So we either got to go with one or the other. So to your backing up question, when we go next year to the next phase, they would build another similar sized roundabout at the intersection of Harvard and Wakarusa. Or if we choose not to put any signalization or just leave stop signs, we'll probably have stoplight at Harvard and a stoplight at Inverness. You have to, I guess they want it to be consistent on that 1 mile stretch of road.
Yeah.
So that's why we got to kind of decide now when we're going to tear up the road. But I had the same question. I didn't understand what the urgency was.
So I guess I'm wondering if you're looking at the 2 intersections and saying which one's the priority, which one would we go with first to kind of see how that shakes out.
Well, unfortunately, we're only doing the southern half of We're not going all the way to Harvard. We're doing the first phase right about there. So we don't have the resources to implement the next phase until next year. So the year after that. So yeah, you're right. It would be ideal to probably try it out at Harvard is what you're saying, right? If you're going to do it.
To me,
That intersection
that's
is.
where that's congested. And the roundabouts that we're on, Harvard really, my understanding, we're just trying to slow traffic.
Yes.
Slow traffic down. A stop sign seems to slow traffic down a little more than a roundabout.
Yes.
Would be the difference between those two.
If they stop.
If they stop.
Which is when you hear the accidents or that Chris was talking about, people didn't stop, I think is probably what the problem was.
So second question I have is how are those, the adjacent properties, how are they going to be, what should they expect in terms of treatment?
You know what, why don't I let you talk to the engineers? They've got a workup on layout of the, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I
Like
saw
where the
that,
roads? Yeah.
there's a monument sign that's right in there, like, right on the,
Yeah.
on the
So-
sidewalk.
If we go that route, they'll have to show you that, but yes, it's all in their layout and their design. So I couldn't answer that question right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good evening, my name is Heather Hughes and I live at 1215 Stone Creek Drive. And I guess my first question is, there will be construction this year and next year on these two intersections, regardless of what the choice is made. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are rebuilding the entire road,
So-
north to south for that mile stretch.
Okay. My first point was going to be, I feel like with the new exit on K10 to Bob Billings, that could definitely impact the traffic patterns on Wakarusa. When you look at the exit of 6th Street off of K10 at 5 to 6 o'clock at night, cars are backed up, clear back to K10 on the ramp. And so all of those cars are diverting down 6th Street and feeding into Wakarusa, to those neighborhoods. So I guess first I feel like it would be nice to wait and see what happens with the new traffic patterns with the opening of that exit. But second of all, the brevity of the situation is very significant if what goes on at this intersection will be mimicked at Harvard. And I agree with Dr. Ranjabar that as you get closer to Wakarusa on 6th Street, it gets more and more and more bottlenecked. And if we do roundabouts, I understand they're in Kansas City, but from what I've witnessed in this town as a resident of 4 years, we need significant education for citizens on how to use them. And I think it needs more to be greater than what is on a website or published in the newspaper. And if it's field trips for all of us to go look at how to drive them in our cars, that would be fine, but something very interactive needs to happen. And furthermore, I run these streets every day and I drive my car on these streets. And at this intersection at Inverness Legends, I never have a long wait. And if you want people to stop, just put a cop there and start issuing tickets and maybe they will come to a more complete stop. And furthermore, I run this intersection with my dogs and I've never felt endangered at all. So thank you for listening to me.
Thanks, Heather.
Heather, would you organize the field trips?
Yes, I will.
All right.
And tricycles
There you
for
go.
everybody to use.
Very good.
And,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Michael Allman. I'm an unabashed fan of roundabouts, just to make the record clear. And it's kind of funny because it seems like roundabouts are kind of like cilantro. I need say no more. You either hate them or love them. To me, I have a degree in design, and I feel really it comes down to how they're designed. I think the one at 19th and Barker is designed fabulous. The one at Monterey and Harvard, I think is horrible. When I drive through 19th and Barker intersection there, I can think of maybe on a handful of times that I've actually had to stop. It's just wonderful, just continuing on through. And really, there's only one rule of a roundabout. If drivers want to learn how to handle a roundabout, yield to the car on the left. That's it. No matter where you are. But I do have some questions from staff. How wide are the auto lanes?
I would probably prefer to ask the commission.
Okay. Whoever has the answer.
I'll be the mediator. How wide are the lanes?
I think they're 11
Just get all the
feet.
questions soon.
Aren't they 11 feet?
They're 11 feet leading up into the roundabout, or once you get into the roundabout, they'll be wider.
11.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I wish the diagrams were still up there, but there are not bicycle lanes in the roundabout?
No.
right?
No, you choose the center lane and go through it, or you choose the relief and take the pedestrian walkway. Because there's a ramp to that to get in and out of the roundabout if you want to avoid it completely. So you act as a car through the center lane, or you divert and go back down around.
Like at O'Connell.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's a fabulous design. Because there's different levels of experience of bicyclists. You know, there's the juvenile bicyclist and there's the very experienced one. And if you give them those options, they can either navigate the roundabout as traffic or go on the sidewalk as a pedestrian, so to speak. As long as it is readily and easily designed so the ramp on the sidewalk is chosen very easily, and you don't have to slow down and swing into traffic or whatever, that kind of thing. I also like the fact that a roundabout means fewer conflicts for pedestrians. You cross either only one lane or two lanes, in whichever case it is, at a time, instead of 4 lanes or 6 lanes. You go to the middle and then you can look the other way, and you're always looking one direction for the traffic instead of looking both ways. So it's much safer for pedestrians for that reason too. It seems to me that once people experience the roundabout that's well designed, it works well. And I don't agree that moving traffic through the roundabout, which it very efficiently does with fewer stops, does anything for the intersection at Harvard. We're not talking about increasing the volume of traffic. There's not going to be more cars at Harvard. They're just going to be more smoothly flowing through the one at Legends. They'll get to Harvard about the same time as they would otherwise, just in different ways. So really we have to look at this from a whole systems design thing to consider. And I think it's a good idea to do it now, rather than wait and see what happens at K10 and Bob Billings. Wait and see, then by then, things are set in concrete, literally. I like being proactive. Let's anticipate the traffic counts. We have an engineering department to do that. I can't question their numbers. I can't verify their numbers, but I assume that we're looking at all that, and I think we should be proactive on this. And if the people on the west side don't like roundabouts, and I wonder if hearsay really represents all the people,
okay,
I'd be very happy to have it in our neighborhood.
Okay.
It's been on the capital improvements budget for how many years, David? At 15th and Haskell and 19th and Haskell?
Okay.
6,
Sorry.
7, whatever.
I don't want to get
We'd like
diverted
that to
here.
move ahead.
I don't want to get stuck in the roundabout, you know.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so, thank you.
Yeah, well played, sir.
Kingston
Well
Trio
played.
hopefully ever return.
Just kept turning left. and-
Just turn left.
Hi, my name is Angela Hiley. I am with 1108 Summerfield Way, so I live in that neighborhood. Does that overhead projector work?
It's right there.
Just roundabout at George Williams Way and Harvard intersection, and this occurred after a semi-truck that was too big for the intersection had to turn the corner and had no choice but to take out the retaining wall. If those retaining walls aren't there, if it's nice and flat, then there's nothing for the trucks to take out, so that would be a suggestion that you leave them flat. I looked at pictures online of roundabouts, and 90% of them don't have, they're really pretty, but they end up getting taken out, and then you have to add that to your maintenance cost, and then the cost of the roundabout rises because you have to keep working on that. The thing that I hate about roundabouts, I'm sure that they would work smoothly, again, if everybody knew how to navigate the things. And with all due respect, there is one more rule than just yielding to the left. You have to use your blinker. You're supposed to use your blinker to let people know which exit you're taking. Otherwise, you have a glorified four-way stop. Case in point, I am heading east. Somebody's coming west. She turns. She wants to go left. The oncoming traffic stops for her, and she points in the direction she wants to go instead of using her blinker. I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. These are who we're dealing with. So you have to sit there and wait.
I'm glad you said she, so that because
yeah, I
we didn't
know
have
she
to make
makes
any
us look bad.
assumptions. Then. All
So
right.
anyway, that's the
I thought it was the
frustrating
guy.
part.
Did you get a picture?
No, because I was driving, so I'm not supposed to do
Good
that,
call.
right? Right? Okay. So anyway, that's the thing that's frustrating. They would work smoothly if people knew how to do this. And as Heather said, we've got to do more. I'm on game for field trips. I'll second for field trips. People don't want to educate themselves. I didn't know how to navigate one, so I looked it up online. But I have literally, in all the years that we've had these things, I can count on one hand how many times I've seen somebody use their blinker to exit the roundabout. And it's beautiful when they do it, because here they come, they're blinking, cool, they're leaving, so now I can go, instead of having to wait to go, where are you going? Where are you going? So somehow or another, we've got to get people to understand. And yeah, the two-way roundabout thing, it concerns me, because how many people are going to change? They do that at the stop signs. When you go to turn, you have two lanes turning, and one goes, oh, I'm going to merge because I need it in the outside lane instead of the inside, and la 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 la. It's just frustrating. So I vote for either one-way stop or the four-way stops or the lights. I have a letter that someone sent. He couldn't make it. He said that he was from Hoisington, Kansas, and years ago they put in roundabouts all throughout the little town. And after 40 years of snow removal issues and maintenance issues and associated with bad drivers, they realized it was cheaper and just plain old better to get rid of all of them. I don't know if we're going to get to that point. But yeah, some of it, I know where road rage comes from, because, dude, I am one of them that's yelling and screaming when people don't navigate these things. So that's my biggest thing, is this, the fact that they look cruddy when people run into them. They jump the curbs, and then the curbs start breaking down, and that it takes forever to get through the things because people don't function in them at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rules of the road.
I'm Robert Lewis, 1105 West Hills Parkway. I went to graduate school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Students in two different departments became very close, and we started having reunions. The 25th reunion was 1990. Driving to the golf course in the newer part of town, oh my God, around about 2 lanes. First time you hit these things, it is frightening. We were going to the golf course. We had the golf courses, Library 22, Library 35. That's how we kept track of the golf courses. But the natives tell me, be careful in the wintertime because they can be total disasters if the ice is not kept off. Ties up traffic and lots of accidents. So be careful. You've got to keep them clean in the wintertime or you get a disaster.
So they like them?
I don't talk to the natives that much, and the natives of Madison did not have roundabouts in their particular part of town. It's the newer parts of town on the west side.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Robert.
Good evening. I'm George Hughes. I live on Stone Creek, there on the west side of Lawrence. I own Glory Days Pizza, which is located at 6th and Wakarusa. I've been there since 1999. I have a couple issues about this thing. First off is I think if the money needs to be spent, I think we need to wait. We need to let KDOT invest their funds and to see if they can improve traffic over there on Bob Billings. And then they're going to be connecting, my understanding is George Williams, north and south. So that can move traffic 1 mile further west. So this could be something that's a moot point. We could be building the biggest roundabout in Lawrence that's going to be the least used, especially if everything keeps migrating west, as you guys predict it will. My other point is when you start talking about two-lane roundabouts back to back, you don't have to go much further than Topeka, Kansas, which maybe isn't the favorite place for people to go to. But at 46th and Highway 75, they did 2 roundabouts. Now there's 3 roundabouts back to back. And so I'm sure the locals have all figured out how to do it now. But pull off there at the Petro Deli, navigate that one, go into the next one, try to go into Cap Fed or go into the McDonald's, get back out and go back out. After a few times, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but there's a lot of people who come to a stop thinking that even though that person's over a lane, they've got to wait for them because they don't have a clear lane there. So there's definitely issues there. It's not the safest thing in the world. And the other thing that is my point is when you are trying to pull out of my shopping center there behind the Quick Shop and with the Dillons, or you're leaving Salty Iguana, or you're leaving McDonald's in that area, or Johnny's West. You try to pull out and you try to take a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn depending on which direction you're going. You're continually being peppered in both directions from the traffic from those 4-way stops. There's no flow control. I would like to see a light down there. Yes, there's one a mile away, but you have 2 4-way stops in between there. And I don't think Inverness is the right place for it. I think maybe Harvard up there a little closer would be a better place for a light, see how that works. But it'd be something that would stop the traffic flow, let everybody leaving Quick Shop or Quick Trip, pulling out there and trying to take a left and go back to the neighborhood. That backs all the way back into our shopping center and nobody can get out because, I mean, you're continually waiting for traffic to come right, left, and in all different directions. If you guys live in the neighborhood, you know that. So I'm not telling you guys anything new. And I don't see how this roundabout is going to solve that. In fact, it's probably going to create more issues because nobody's stopping for anybody. Okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Who knew there'd be so much comment? My name's Katie Walsh. I just wanted to say that should there be a roundabout, this is a perfect opportunity for the Percent for Art projects. Our roundabouts are very pretty. There is that one sculpture at 19th and Barker.
Mm-hmm.
I realize we got that because somebody never picked up their sculpture from the Downtown Sculpture Project, but we already have the protocol in place with our Cultural Arts Commission, and we could do it. We could restrict it to regional artists so the money stays in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Please.
Yeah, I wanted to just address some of the questions that we've had. We've had a lot of questions about possibly doing it later instead of doing it now. Like Nick mentioned, it's a level of service C, which is generally acceptable for now, but we project traffic growth in the future, and we think with the construction going on now, we get the economies to improve the intersection. We certainly don't want to go back in 5 years and tear it up again to do either a roundabout or a signal. So we think now is the appropriate time to make the improvements ahead of time as we move forward and we project that traffic will increase. So just wanted to point that out. And a lot of the comments about being designed appropriately, this will be the biggest one in the city. You know, we have 19 roundabouts currently in Lawrence. We haven't seen any more accidents at roundabouts than we have at signals, but you know, we think this is the biggest, and we get a lot of complaints about the ones on Harvard that they're not big enough. Those were retrofitted, so they were a little smaller to keep them within right of way. And so this, the 150-foot radius is a little larger. To talk about some of the right-of-way and the monument sign question, here on the southwest corner, yes. Oh, it is not up, sorry. I'm looking at this.
The Elmo's on. Switch it.
Sorry about that. There we go. On the southwest corner, the red shaded area is the approximate right-of-way or easement that we would need to acquire. We've been very conservative, and we've kind of drawn 40-foot triangles, I guess, let's say, triangular shapes, 40 foot along the property line is what we would acquire. It would probably be significantly less than that. Certainly for right-of-way, we would need a pedestrian easement for the sidewalk. The thick black line is the sidewalk. And so we still have, several feet beyond that may not be needed to be acquired. So it could be a lot less than we think. So we've been kind of conservative. I do think the monuments on the southwest corner may need to be moved back. We would do that with the project. The one on the northwest corner appears to be outside of the construction limits, so that would be likely okay to remain in place. And then just as a whole, when we look at these things, as in the engineering perspective, we look at three things. That's safety, efficiency of traffic, and cost. And, if we're going to make an improvement between a traffic signal or a roundabout, if that's the direction to improve the intersection, we think it's safer for pedestrians, it's safer for accidents. If the accidents are lower speed accidents and not the high speed T-bone collisions that we have at signalized intersections. So we think it's safer. And then on the efficiency, like Nick mentioned, the level of service actually on Wakarusa would go down to a D with the traffic signal because of the pedestrian phase, and the roundabout maintains an A, and the cost is less for the roundabout than the traffic signal, and it's less maintenance costs, electricity, it's more environmentally friendly, and it complies with the Complete Streets policy. So just wanted to point those things out, and there's probably some other questions that I'm missing, but I'll let you go ahead and fire away.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Talk about accidents. You said they're not any more than regular intersections. Do you know if they're less than regular intersections?
We don't. We haven't done any studies with the roundabouts in Lawrence. I think there's been studies done that have kind of shown that they've been equal. There's equal accident probability with a roundabout or a traffic signal, and it probably depends on the location and the size. There's probably a lot of factors. So I guess to answer your question, we don't have any data on the ones in Lawrence.
Okay. One other question, I got an email today. On your pedestrian crosswalks, there's a school in the area. Are there going to be pedestrian signs to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk? Or is it just because, or do they just have a safe haven in the middle of the crosswalk?
Yeah, they just have the refuge island in the middle, so they don't have the pedestrian head with the walk or don't walk sign. So it's
Wasn't thinking about that so much, but like downtown, if you walk in the crosswalk, there's a state law or something like that. You have to stop for the crosswalk.
Yes.
Is that a similar feature of these?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, you yield to the pedestrian.
But would there be signage there that says that?
Yeah.
Okay. So pedestrians have the right of way when they're crossing.
Correct.
Okay.
I think one of the legitimate concerns was snow, because you're not just moving forward, you're moving laterally.
Mm-hmm.
What would your comments be about that? Is it less safe during the snow?
Well, I don't know if it'd be less safe. I mean, it would be a priority for the maintenance crews to get sand and salt down to get better traction in roundabouts, and so you're not sliding. But you know, with the signal, if you're sliding, you come up to a signal and it's a red light and you're trying to stop, you're sliding into the intersection, which could be more dangerous for other folks crossing the street. So, you know, we probably can focus more on clearing the snow from this, and that maybe Chuck may have some more comments on the maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
David, do you have any idea how many accidents have happened at this location?
I do not. David, do you have that info?
I don't have any recent data at that intersection, but I can say that the reason there is a always stop there was because of crashes. There was not enough volume to warrant an always stop when it was put in. It was only because of crashes, as well as at Harvard. That one was also put in because of the number of crashes at that intersection too, not because of traffic volumes on the side streets.
Okay. And yesterday in agenda meeting, we talked about possibly finding out median speeds on this stretch and also up on North.
Yeah, we were going to
Tesla.
try to do that today, but
Didn't
with
have-
the weather, you can't do that during bad weather because hopefully most people are driving a little bit slower than they would normally. But in dry weather, that's certainly something that we can easily get.
Okay. Thank you.
David? Yes. No, go right ahead.
Is there, can we get some data on, I mean, I know we just asked if there was data. I guess I kind of want to take it to the next step and say I'd like to see crash data at the roundabouts that we have currently in Lawrence versus what there was before, and what there are at those four-way stops right now. Maybe compared to before the four-way stops were in, just so that we can have some plumb lines, I suppose, to measure whether or not this would be a good venture, and maybe what would be helpful, especially to me, because I haven't done a whole lot of research on this, but on a kind of some national statistics on roundabouts, because I know in your presentation it was really good and you gave some great information. I just kind of want to see some harder numbers as far as what is the average speed for people that are going around a 1 lane or a 2 lane at 80 feet and 90 feet and 120 feet, and let's just kind of start putting some beef to this so we can make a good decision, I suppose. So, thanks.
Okay, so I was just checking out Wanamaker, and they've got 4 in a row. 1, 2, north and south on Wanamaker. Did you guys take a look at their design? Have you been over there and seen? Because then they got another one, all their new construction looks like they're doing everything with roundabouts at these kind of intersections. And the profile looks very similar to West Lawrence. I mean, as far as the layout, you know, it's commercial, then mainly residential, then commercial hub, you know. It'd be interesting to hear how, and they're all the 2-lane, you know, roundabouts. They've over-engineered these as well. So I'd love to get some feedback, because those are new. I know some of them they just built like last year and the year before. So have you heard from them? I know one of our guys used to work in Topeka. I know he could probably get some information on that.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them. I'm sure that, you know, this design is probably similar in size to those with
Yeah.
the 2 lanes.
Yeah, I was just measuring it. It looks like almost exactly the same, because you showed the map of the intersection, then I started looking, and there's, like I said, 3 four-way, and then 1 rotary with 3, you know, there's no road going east, but there's 3 roads, you know, meeting, so a through road and then 1 side road. But there's 4 intersections in a row. I wonder what the traffic flow is like there, because that's about the same distance from 6th Street to 23rd Street that we're talking about here, which would be 1 at Harvard, 1 at Wakarusa, the light at Billings, and then maybe another 1 down the way before you get to 23rd Street is my guess sometime in the future. Now, I guess I would like, along with the statistics, I'd like to know how they feel like theirs are operating, because we are making a commitment, even though it's unnecessary at this time, probably based on traffic volume, I understand why you want to put it in. I just want to make sure we make the right decision for the dollars we're spending. My second question is, can we pre-wire the intersection for a light in the event that we don't move forward and that we don't have to tear up the intersection when we do put up lights? If we go back to if we go to a four-way stop, put it back the way it is, can we pre-wire it for, how much money are we talking about trying to put in the necessary wiring to put in a signal there?
Sure, yeah, we could install the conduit for that, and that's
Yeah.
relatively cheap.
Yeah.
The main additional expense with the traffic signal is putting in the pavement widening for the dedicated left turn lane, which I think would be needed. And we would want to do that, you know, we would have to go back and retrofit that and widen the road to put the left turn lane in if we went back with the four-way stop, or we could.
Can we build it to spec? Can we build it wider there?
We could. And we could not put in the signal until the signal is warranted. And
I don't know, it was just something I'm thinking about.
The signal is $250,000 to $300,000, and the pavement widening is the rest of the cost,
Mhm.
probably about $200,000.
And if we widened it, because we're needing to widen anyway, because if we put the roundabout, you're asking for right-of-way on all four sides of the road, right?
Correct.
And how much of the road are you wanting to widen? Just that section right by the intersection then? So is it a similar swath of land as we would grab for the right-of-way for the roundabout?
Yeah, we would not need right-of-way for the traffic signal, and the widening for the pavement would most likely be within the right-of-way. We haven't designed it yet, and we would have to put sidewalks in, and when you widen the road and put the sidewalks back farther, sometimes we get a pedestrian easement. But we're not anticipating any right-of-way acquisition with the widening on Inverness or Legends Drive for the left turn lane. So it would just be for the roundabout, we would need the sliver.
Okay. So, but just when we report back, just let me know the cost of pre-installing the conduit and then whatever width of the road you would need. I think we would like to know the comparison going back, because if we don't choose to make a decision on this, it'd be nice to know what it's going to cost. Yes.
In Lenexa, I can't remember what street it is, maybe Kansas City Drive or something like that. Near the Bass Pro Shop, there is a 2-lane roundabout like this, very large. In fact, there may be 2 of them. And if we're collecting information, it would be good to get information from the city of Lenexa on accidents and the functionality of it, things like that. It's kind of amazing to me that on both to the east and west, they're doing this, and they must have the same concerns we have. I mean, we're all wonderful Kansans, and so maybe we can learn a little bit from their experiences, and maybe that helps us make a good decision.
Yes.
And maybe the accident counts that they're experiencing, if it's lesser or greater, whatever information we can get.
Okay.
And I believe it's Lenexa at that point. I may have the.
Yeah, he's a picture of it.
I did notice in the staff report, it talked about design plans in winter of 2013 to stay on some kind of schedule. What kind of time frame do we need to follow to make a decision on this?
That's David's division.
Okay.
Yeah, we are in the midst of designing plans. We anticipate probably putting the plans out to bid. March is optimistic. March, April, spring, and beginning construction late spring, early summer. Construction will probably take, I'm just estimating, about 6 months. It's a little bigger project than this last year's project was. And so we would like some direction, within the next month, so we could have enough time to make the appropriate design changes or have time to design, because either way, it will take some staff time to do it. We are doing this with our in-house staff, and so we have limited resources. Nick is great, but it takes time to do the work. So yeah, the sooner the better, but we can certainly get all of this data that you've requested here relatively quickly and bring it back at that.
2 weeks? Because we don't meet next week or week.
Yeah, if that is what you guys want to do.
That's okay.
We'll make it.
The 26th, in my suggestion.
Okay, sorry.
that
I
would
tried.
be fine.
I tried to. Switzerland, I told you, you know, it's, okay. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys putting this design forward, but I don't think we're ready to make a decision on that or give you feedback on that right now, so. It's good to be thinking in advance. All right, so I'm gonna dig out of here. We're gonna direct staff as appropriate. Is that an appropriate direction for you?
Bring back information
Yes.
and place it back on the 26th.
That'd be my suggestion.
A motion for deferral.
Yes, please, motion to
Make a
defer.
motion to defer until the 26th, until appropriate information to the questions we asked is brought forward.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Amick, seconded by Commissioner Shum. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Whew. All right. Next item on the agenda is item 4, considering approving the following rezoning request from 1146 Haskell Avenue.
Good evening, I'm Mary Miller, current planner, and we have 3 rezonings associated with this project at 1146 Haskell. One to the RS7 district, one to the OS or open space district, and one to the IL or light industrial district. The subject property contains approximately 6 acres and is in the northeast corner of the intersection of Haskell Avenue and East 12th Street. The zonings in the area are colored here. South of 12th Street, we have primarily residential development. We also have a very small portion of inner neighborhood commercial. North of 12th Street, we have open space. We have GPI, or General Public Institutional Use District, and these have industrial type uses. I'll show that on the next slide. And then to the north of that, we have the general industrial. Sorry, this is showing the zonings that are being proposed. The purple area in the corner is the IL district. To the north is the OS or open space district, and then to the south, adjacent to the residential, is the RS7 district. And this slide shows the land uses in the area. As I mentioned, south of 12th is predominantly residential and open space, and then north of the subject property are the more industrial type uses. It's zone GPI. We have the city maintenance garage, we have the solid waste yard and storage center, and north of that we have the water waste treatment plant, and then in this area we have general industrial uses. This graphic is from the zoning applications. It shows how the zonings would be on the property. As I mentioned, RS7 is adjacent to the residential district. The Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of that zoning. VOS was originally part of the RS zoning when that was submitted. There are floodplain on it, which is environmentally sensitive land, and the development code requires protection of environmentally sensitive land by being placed in an easement or tract, along with protection measures. And so for a protection measure, this was placed in a tract, but it was also rezoned to the OS district. There's very limited uses permitted in that district, so that is the protection measure for that. And then the IL is the industrial district in the corner. And the Planning Commission voted 8-1 to recommend approval of that. One of the planning commissioners did not feel this was an appropriate location for the industrial district or an industrial use. Prior to the Planning Commission meeting, we did receive public communication with a list of uses that were requested to be restricted. So we reviewed that list of uses to see which ones we felt would be compatible or incompatible with the surrounding area. The criteria we used, we looked at uses that are permitted in the RS7 district, which is that zoning district just south of this property, the RSO district, which is the single dwelling residential office district and is intended primarily to be within or adjacent to single-family residential areas, and the CN1 district, which is the inner neighborhood commercial district, which is intended to be within a residential area. Uses that are permitted in those districts are felt to be appropriate for this location, as it's not within a residential district but is adjacent to it. We looked at uses that are permitted in those 3 districts with a special use permit, and went through to try to find which ones might require a special use permit, which might not be permit compatible, or which could be compatible by right in this district. We looked at uses that are permitted in the light industrial district with approval of a special use permit, and we did not propose restricting any of these uses further. When you're a special use, that means you may be compatible, you may not be. It depends upon your operational characteristics and the design of the site. A special use requires approval of a special use permit. That includes a public hearing before the Planning Commission and City Commission approval of the site plan, and it allows the opportunity to place conditions on the use to ensure that it is compatible. And then we looked at uses that are permitted by right in the industrial district or the light industrial district to see if any of those might be incompatible. And based on this review, staff recommended that these 3 uses, which are currently permitted by right, be permitted with the approval of a special use permit. The lodge, fraternal, and civic assembly, this could be a use such as lodges that you see about town that maybe have too much intensity and too much activity to be compatible. On the other hand, a bridge club or a 4-H club would also fall into this use category. So the different types of uses could be compatible. And that's why a special use permit is recommended. Active recreation could include swimming pools, ice skating rinks, or other outside activity that could have quite a bit of noise associated with them. It also applies to playground equipment, and for that reason, we recommend keeping it as a permitted use, but requiring the special use permit. The hotel, motel, and extended stay, it's difficult to imagine that being a proposed use at this location, but it's possible a small-scale facility might be proposed, and so that was recommended to be allowed with a special use permit. There was a history with this property that the neighborhood explained with the previous use, and they wanted to avoid the possibility of those uses being able to be installed. Also, some of the uses they recommended, such as kennel and livestock sales, could be seen as being incompatible with the adjacent residences. So those were recommended for restriction. Fast order food with the drive-in, that may be too much traffic for the streets. That was seen as a use that should be restricted. And then all the vehicular related uses that are normally permitted in the IL district are recommended to be restricted. And then we also included the scrap and salvage operation, the large collection recycling facilities, and the recycling processing center. Since this is very similar to the previous use that created quite an issue in the neighborhood, just restricting those as well. Participation, sports, and recreation outdoor, these usually involve quite a bit of activity and sometimes involve outdoor lighting at night, so we recommended restricting that use also. This is a plat that shows, it's not before you tonight, but it kind of shows the layout and what's being proposed. You have the open space area on the north. We have the residential zoning being divided into 9 lots. The green area is just a landscape easement. There's a large tree that the applicant is going to preserve here. And then we have the industrial property on this corner. It's already developed with an industrial building. This use was in place, or this building was in place when the property was annexed, and has been used for various types of uses throughout the time, and it will continue to be used with this proposal. And we did receive additional comment, and that was included in your packet, from a member of the neighborhood who felt that there should be additional restrictions. 3 uses primarily, one being general industrial, one being laundry services, and another one being the small-scale recycling collection centers. The Planning Commission action, as I mentioned earlier, they did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the 2 zonings, the one to RS7 and the one to open space. They voted 8-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning to the light industrial district with the restriction of uses listed in the staff memo. And the options tonight for the IL zoning would be to approve as recommended by the Planning Commission, or with a 4-5 vote, you could change their recommendation. You could include the additional restrictions as requested in the public communication and include those additional 3 items. Or you could include a provision that all site plans would require approval by the City Commission. All site plans do have a provision that they can be appealed to the City Commission, but this would require them to come to you for initial approval.
Yes, can I?
Can I remind you about comparing ex parte communications?
Yes. Jeremy, I always like to start with you.
I had a conversation with Melinda Henderson.
That's it?
I have nothing that anybody else wouldn't have already had also.
Yeah, this was quiet.
Nothing.
Okay, that was easy.
Pretty red hot topic, huh? Can I ask
So-
staff a question?
Sure, please do so.
On the options, can we choose 2 of the 3 or all 3 or? Okay, well, I guess you wouldn't do both 1 and 2, but you, number 3 you could include with either one or 2. I would think we'd want to retain site plan approval over this because this has been such a difficult site and it's required a lot of negotiating to move off the last person, and I would like to see that it be maintained a nice, lovely neighborhood amenity without fire trucks.
Okay. Public comment?
We're the applicants, so I'd like to say something if possible.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I'm Eric J. This is Matt Jones. We construct, restruct. We're a small design build company rooted in East Florence. We currently have 6 employees. We've rapidly outgrown our space at 920 Delaware over the last 5 years and had the opportunity to purchase this property from the current owner. So over the last probably 4 months, we've been working with him and coming up with some ideas, and this is kind of where we've ended up. We want to maintain the commercial property that sits at the corner of 11th or 12th and Haskell, donate a little over 2 acres to the city in hopes for some improvements for a park and maybe the extension of the Burroughs Creek Trail, and develop 9 residential lots to the east of the commercial property that would be sold off and have single-family residences built on the properties.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Jones with Struct Restruct.
Hey, Matt.
I brought some pictures just of our current location because what's interesting about it is currently zoned IL, and it's got residential across the street and next to it. We've had the opportunity to work on quite a number of the houses in the neighborhood, so I'd like to think that our presence has really been a benefit to the neighborhood. We really hope to be able to extend that benefit into the greater area. This is just a picture of our shop showing Allen Press, which is behind us, which I think we are a good buffer between that and the residential. I think it kind of would be acting in a similar way, but just a view down the block showing several of the houses we've worked on. We've worked on 5 houses in less than a block from there, 2 of which were vacant, kind of derelict to the point that most people would not consider them savable, though we have an interest in preserving elements of history when savable, and we just really respect our neighborhood and appreciate being tied into it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So you're not opposed to the restrictions placed on the IL land use by the Planning Commission?
Not at all. The 3 additional requests, there's one that I am concerned about, and that is the general industrial. We're kind of a wood shop. We do a lot of our custom work for houses and stuff out of our shop. One of the things we also do is furniture, most of which is kind of custom. We do have some small kind of production type furniture pieces that we are producing, and that's an idea that we'd like to further pursue. I don't know, I mean, it's somewhere actually between craft and manufacturing, but there's a little bit of a manufacturing element to what we do.
So question, then, 2 of the 3, you wouldn't care if we restricted?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the laundry service or the small collection recycling not being included.
And it's your intent for the general industrial, to use it as your own shop?
Yeah.
Cool.
And actually, when we first submitted the list of restrictions, I think the laundry facility and the small recycling were on there. I'm not sure why they got removed. That didn't really come up in the planning commission.
Thanks, guys. All right, sorry, public comment? I did read your letter, so just FYI.
Sorry?
I did read your letter. You sent a good letter and. Mhm.
Michael Allman. Just to refresh your course here, some of you have not seen what we dealt with for 6 years,
That's it.
so I dwell on it.
You don't have one with a
Basically-
fire truck though, do you?
Basically, right now, the site is residential zoning. You probably know that. The whole site is residential, has been since 1966. Since we managed to persuade the previous owner, well, no, the current owner, to move, we've envisioned this site in a number of ways, either parkland, or appropriate kind of development, which Struct has brought forward something which we feel could be very compatible. We really love Struct. What we're concerned with is what might happen in the future, and staff is correct in saying that the zoning runs with the land. So whatever zoning goes on the land now, it's gonna be that zoning. This is it. Unless the next landowner requests it be changed. They're the only one who can do that. So right now, as you probably saw in the agenda, submitted by Restruct for BK Rental LLC. That's Bo Kilo.
Right.
Bo Kilo is the property owner of record. So by giving this is a public giving, to give it the increased value, it's going to Mr. Kilo, who does not deserve it for his track record. That's why the most important thing, which staff mentioned, the 3 conditions that I asked for, the most important thing in my letter is that if you upzone this to IL, that it be contingent
on the transaction, yeah.
on closing the sale and recording the deed.
Mhm.
If nothing else, please do that. The staff report also mentioned a couple things. Locational criteria does not meet the locational criteria necessary for location of new industrial zoning district. We like what Restruct is providing. Basically, it's a commercial operation. We want to support that, but we want it done airtight so it doesn't go back to that first image that you saw. Staff went to the point of claiming that this is adjacent to the, well, it is, adjacent to the Burroughs Creek corridor, which they portrayed as an industrial corridor. And they also mentioned that this is from Horizon 2020. The industrial corridor goes from 31st Street up to the river.
Mhm.
These are the snowflakes. That's incorrect. This red area in here is the Burroughs Creek corridor from 23rd Street to 11th Street. The only industrial area in that whole part of our neighborhood is right there at 19 and Haskell. And those are really commercial warehouse operations, not manufacturing. The Burroughs Creek plan specifically calls for downzoning industrial properties in that previously industrial corridor. Staff cannot refer to this as an industrial corridor. Specifically 15 properties, the plan calls for downzoning. So what we want to have is these kind of conditions and section, let me pull it up here, I'm sorry, of this, the development code, sorry, allows you to put whatever restrictions you see fit if it's 2011-01. The City Commission, if non-residential use located within 500 feet of a less intensive residential district, City Commission can impose Any
Yeah, Michael.
minimum requirements.
You put that in the letter, and I read that.
I did put that in the letter.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean,
So-
we understand what you want. We respect, but your time is up, and I just
Okay.
wanted to respect that. Thank you. So,
Thank you very much.
whatever, I mean, I think what you're asking is what you put in your letter, which is restrict it to land use based on a purchase and transfer to Bull Killu, from Bull Killu to the new owners.
Right, that's.
Number
one of the
one
most
thing you want
important
done.
things. We don't know if they need a general industrial to do furniture, honestly. I think that's an open question.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Dickie Heckler. I'm here to concur with the information submitted online, with the documents submitted by, I will concur wholeheartedly, they were submitted by Michael Almond, Byron Wiley, League of Women Voters, and the Brook Creek neighborhood by way of Julie Mitchell, our president.
Very good, thank you.
Hi, Byron Wiley, 1200 Elmira.
Hey, Byron.
Just wanted to say that in general, I'm very impressed with the plan that they've brought forward. They've communicated with our neighborhood, and I think it's probably one of the best things that can happen over there. My concerns were outlined in the letter. Basically, I want to make sure, since this is permanent, the zoning that's decided upon, want to make sure that, you know, if they ever sell, or, you know, what Michael was saying about, you know, condition upon sale of the property, you know, just to prevent a future neighborhood disaster of that nature, like that had happened. I think that's basically all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Byron. Looks like, yeah, he's got the same general industrial question. Get that covered.
Hi, I'm Andrea Rapinski. I'm currently the Vice President of the Brook Creek Neighborhood Association. I'm here to represent the Neighborhood Association. I wanted to let you know that the Neighborhood Association officers and attendees of recent committees, recent meetings have generally agreed with the comments that you've heard so far, and that we support the proposal of Struck v. Struck. We anticipate that they would be good neighbors, and we do think that this is probably the best possible proposal that we expect to see for the site. And it's been great to see that all the neighbors at our meetings have been generally unanimous in how we have viewed the issues, and how we've had general support for the proposal. And it's been great to have the Struck v. Struck guys come to 2 of our meetings to discuss the proposal with us. So that's been good. We used to support the restrictions as proposed by city staff. I don't think that the neighborhood would generally be supportive of allowing any kind of recycling, processing, or collection center in the future because of the past. It was pretty hard on the neighborhood. There is a little concern, well, some concern among neighbors about flood issues. So I just ask that in the future that we just keep an eye on the flood issues to make sure that future residents on the site and the surrounding neighborhood stay safe, and their property stay safe, and how we use the property. Also, there is excitement about potential trail connections between Brook Creek Park and the Burrows Creek Trail. So I do encourage you to keep an eye on that issue as well. The neighborhood association would be interested in participating in any discussions that occur on how that site gets used and planned in the future. And so yeah, we're available to work with the city on that and to have any discussions on flood issues and anything else with the site. And oh yeah, well finally I just wanted to thank you for your support. Those of you who have been on the commission for a while, you've given us a lot of time and care and attention in dealing with the severe issues that we've had with nuisances in the past. So we're really grateful for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate you guys sticking in there.
Katie Walsh, I'll be brief. I just wanted to let you know that in East Lawrence, we've had a really fine experience with, Struct Restruct as a company. They've been very respectful of the neighborhood and come to us early with their plans and listened whenever, they're very open to the neighborhood. They also have worked really well and respectfully with the Historic Resources Commission. They understand historic preservation very well. And that's something that's really important to us in East Lawrence, and I assume is important to the Brook Creek neighborhood. Also, I wanted to reiterate what Andrea just said about them proposing to gift the land to the city to help extend Burrows Creek Trail to the river. That's been a dream of a lot of people for a long time, so that's a big plus. And then the only other thing is the manufacturing of furniture. I wondered, to me, the furniture that they make is art furniture, and it's commissioned furniture, and they've shown it in art galleries. So it strikes me less as a manufacturing facility than a studio space. And I don't know how that would affect zoning, but I wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
My name is Emily Winters, and I live at 1313 Haskell. I've been working with Struct Restruct the past year. We renovated the Hanscom residence, which was moved from 15th and Haskell to 1313, and had been sitting vacant for a while. They've been wonderful, so I just want to put in my support. We'd love to have them as neighbors, and also excited about the potential expansion of the Burrows Creek Trail, because it's used all the time, all parts of the day. It's totally full, and it's our backyard, so we would love to see it extended. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're speaking of extending it to the east and north, the Burrows Creek Trail?
Yeah, there was talk of having going across the street of Haskell and then having a section that would have parking as an access to because there's no parking, that's the issue with that.
Kind of ends right.
That park. And so there was discussion of using part of that city land by where the gas stations are for the police vehicles, and using a parking area there, and then having a bridge across the creek that would be access to the park. So it was, because the trail does kind of end at this point, and there's no way to get across Haskell. So it would be a continuation.
And then if it went from 11th and Delaware to downtown, that would be okay too, right?
From 11th.
Thanks.
They'd have to cross the tracks on their own, but
No, there's a way.
there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, Bob, so you mentioned 2 restrictions that he had listed. So I guess I want to make sure, just to move this along, are we generally in favor of additional restrictions as requested?
Let me ask
Sure.
Scott one question. One of the speakers, can't remember who it was. Is there a different classification other than general industrial for a furniture making operation?
I was looking that up. We do have a limited manufacturing component. That's with no outside storage. And we understand that there will be some outdoor storage associated with this. So you do have, a couple of things you can do. You could require that the general industrial use be a special use permit things that probably need to remain to accommodate the assumed use, presumed use as the company grows. But, and it's related laundry services, small collection recycling. We'll add those related uses since the applicant is agreeable to that.
Okay, so if we approve this, we'd have to have at least 4 votes because we're changing what the planning commission recommended. Seems like we want to outlaw or deny the prohibit.
Encourage some other use.
Tell them they can't do laundry and small claims or small collections, recycling. Allow for a furniture manufacturing accommodation under an SPU and require that site plans be approved by the city commission. That would be very,
A lot of general industrial under an SUP and then require site plans to come to the city commission, which would include the initial site plan with structure.
okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask the applicant, but
One thing I'll mention, it's just not strictly furniture. I mean, we generally mill trim, baseboard, casing, we make doors, we make kitchen cabinets.
be woodworking and furniture.
We do everything.
It's-
Yeah, we're okay.
I think limiting that is somewhat concerning to us, just
I don't
because.
think we limit it to furniture, it would,
Oh.
I think the use itself would go through a process for a public plan administrator.
So laundry out.
Yes.
small collections of
and then
recyclables.
recycling out, for sure.
And then we want to tie the contract, we want to tie the condition of the zoning to the execution of the contract, is that correct?
Yes, well, that was what they asked.
Well,
What they asked,
Yes, yes.
Our position, I could ask Mr. Larkin to maybe address it too, is, there would be nothing to prevent if the deal fell through after that to sell it back to Mr. Killow. I mean, there's no way to guarantee that Mr. Killow or any owner doesn't become an owner in the future.
Right.
So, from our perspective, if we get the right conditions on the zoning, it shouldn't matter who.
Well, that's right. Especially if it's an SPU, then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because if it were purchased on contract, the contract failed, it reverts back to the original owner anyway. Something like that.
There's no way to track that or to
Right.
enforce that from our perspective.
Okay.
Question?
Yes, please.
Wouldn't we all always have the opportunity, under the governing body, that if for some reason this particular use fell apart, we could always initiate some other's rezoning of that property, correct?
Yes, the city commission has the authority to initiate.
So, Michael, in one of the comments that you made a little while ago, you know, that the decision on rezoning rests with the next owner of the property, and there's only this one time. We always have the right to initiate rezoning of property. Call it what you want. Okay.
We do?
We do.
We give
I
it, then
don't
we take
remember
it.
ever doing that.
It's been done in the past.
Usually it's Texas.
It's been
It's
done.
pretty aggressive there, Mike.
It's been done.
Okay. So then is there a motion? Somebody want to put together a motion? Do you want to talk about it?
If everyone's in agreement, I'll make a motion.
I don't
Yeah.
hear anybody.
Bob's
here.
deal.
Okay, so, okay. Wait a minute, let me get back to the. So we've got three, go ahead.
Without any restrictions on A and C, as I understand, it's all included, is that correct?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just, I'll move that we approve,
4A?
4A, which is, where am I at here? Oh, yeah, ordinance number 8932. Adopt on first reading to rezone approximately 2.186 acres from RS10 to RS7.
Second? Any?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, second by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, then I would motion, what, Dave, was it C that we had to put the restrictions on?
B-
No.
C is free.
No restrictions on C.
It's on.
Okay, then I'll start with C. I move approval of ordinance number 8933, which rezones approximately 2.38 acres from RS10 to OS.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Vice Mayor Amix. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, then I will move that we approve ordinance number 8936 and adding two restrictions of use in that zone would be to not allow for any laundry facility, not allow for small collections, recycling use, that we grant the GI use, but it should be administered under an SPU, and that the city commission should have the right to approve the site plan for this property.
And put an SUP and IG.
Well, I don't think we need, talked about, we don't need the condition of the sale because
He's close.
we got the SUP in place.
So you have SUP, and then did he say the right zoning designation? Because Mike said it might be IG.
IL.
It's IL. GI,
Yeah.
right. That's the old, now it's
Okay.
IL district.
IL
IL with
district,
the GI.
GI use.
Got it.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second over there?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. I think we got that taken care of. Thank you. And we're going to take a 5-minute break, if that's okay?
Violate protocol here.
No, thank you guys.
You guys did it.
Mayor Scott McCullough again with the Planning Office. This is an applicant-driven text amendment that would permit the bar or lounge use in the CN2 zoning district. Whoops, I think I ended on the last slide. There we go. In the CN2 district, when we converted from C2 to CN2 in 2006, the licensed premise use was omitted. This created 4 nonconformities, is what we learned through this process. We didn't know these nonconformities existed until this issue was brought to our attention. You can see here, there at Wakarusa Marketplace, 2 in Hillcrest, and 1 in 19th and Haskell Center. Most of these centers are adjacent to major arterial street intersections, so they're not exactly an interior residential zoning district. They're more the arterial intersections. We did present to the Planning Commission 3 options. One, to add the bar lounge as permitted use by right, no use standards, no special use permit. To add it as a permitted use with standards similar to those for fast order food establishment, which would limit outright the gross floor area, or to do it with a special use permit in the CN2 district. The Planning Commission decided to kind of mesh options 2 and 3 and permit it by right up to 3,000 square feet, including any outdoor space. If it exceeded that standard, they could seek a special use permit. That is a short presentation. That is the recommendation presented to you by the Planning Commission to allow this as a use by right up to 3,000 gross square feet, including any outdoor area as part of that gross square feet. If it exceeds that, they would seek discretionary approval of a special use permit. I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Scott? None? Thank you, sir. Is there any public comment on this item? Is there an applicant? I thought it was general.
Mayor, yesterday we had the discussion about, the existing CN2 districts that we had. My only concern, again, was at 14th and Massachusetts and the proximity of the school, and understand, they still have to meet all the requirements of being within X number of feet of a school. So, it seems to me that Planning Commission's done, due diligence on this thing. I have no problem with making a motion to concur with the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Second. All right, that was something we thought about. Glad it got done. Mike, motion by Vice Mayor Amick, seconded by Commissioner Farmer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is to conduct a public hearing on the Farmland Infrastructure Benefit District and consider adopting resolution number 7049.
I hate to say the former farmland property when I know we've adopted it as Venture Park, but currently the plat reads farmland. I'm not going to take a lot of time on the history because Matt has an exciting 53-slide PowerPoint presentation to tell you about where we've been, where we're going, and how we got there after this. So I will just...
We're excited for that.
I know, and this is Jonathan's last meeting, so we want to keep him here just as long as possible so he doesn't forget.
He's a high bar.
What about us, though?
You can dismiss
Y'all can stay after we go, okay?
You can dismiss us at any time you so desire.
That's not the right words to use.
The project, basically, last spring we had a public hearing on this. Unfortunately, we made an error in the description that was published, so we're essentially reestablishing the benefit district. Just real quickly, the improvements obviously include the street, 10-inch concrete pavement, curb and gutter, storm sewer. We have sidewalks on both sides, and we have bike lanes. And we're putting in conduit for fiber. Water line is included, including hydrants and valves. The benefit district is the entire property of the farmland plat. The method of assessment is based on a proportionate share, square footage wise, of each tract. The estimated cost is $7.855 million, and it's 100% paid by the benefit district. The City Commission did enter into an agreement. The county owns like 3 tracts of property out here. Did enter into an agreement with the county to defer those specials pending the development of those tracts. So your action this evening would be to open the public hearing and pending any comment and discussion, close the public hearing and approve resolution number 7049, setting out the findings and determinations and directing the improvements to be made.
I'm good.
Second.
Motion to open the public hearing by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Farmer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. Is there any public comment on this?
Mayor, I move we close the public, oops, we got one.
Michael Allman.
One thing I want to focus on is the connection to 19th Street. I don't know, how the traffic's going to play out in that. Most of the traffic, of course, will go to K10, I would assume. But there is that opportunity for people to go that way, particularly, rush hour or whatever. Currently, Brook Creek neighborhood, which we're immediately adjacent to that, we get a fair amount of rush hour traffic morning and evening from the East Hills Industrial Park via North 1500 Road or 15th Street. Not a whole lot, but 19th Street also is the southern edge of our neighborhood. And city manager came to our neighborhood meeting, about a year and a half ago, I think it was, something like that, 2 years ago, explaining about this and pointing out how traffic will increase on 19th Street, wanted us to be aware of that. This somewhat ties into our interest in having a roundabout at 19th and Haskell too. But so that is a concern for our neighborhood, that traffic on 19th Street. I think everybody has it on their radar that 19th Street from here to Iowa Street is probably going to be upgraded sooner or later. So I just wanted to mention that as one of our concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, sir.
Just to respond to Michael's questions, I appreciate him pointing that out. We are doing a change order on O'Connell Road, north of the east-west road, to put that road up to 19th Street. We are committed, though, to not opening up the connection to 19th Street until a couple of things happen. Number one, that we continue meeting with the neighborhood to ensure that we can reduce cut-through traffic on any redesign of 19th Street. Just as importantly, we want to rebuild 19th Street with the appropriate configuration, bike lanes, sidewalks, whatever, to ensure that it can be a good connection to Lawrence Venture Park and East Hills Business Park for people that are going to work there. Hopefully they can bike, walk, drive to that location. We do not want it to be a cut-through traffic for any of the industrial park uses. And we think that we can use the neighborhood input process and the design process to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we're committed toward rebuilding 19th Street. We've asked the county to financially participate in that. As you know, it's an old county section line road, doesn't have sidewalks, not a particularly good street for traffic. We think we can improve it. But that's the commitment that made, I think it's been probably 2 or 3 years ago, back with the neighborhood when we talked with them about that, so that we can make sure that it's a really good connection between Venture Park and the neighborhood, because what we really want, of course, is primary jobs located on Venture Park in East Hills, and then the opportunity for the people that work there to be able to walk, to bike, to travel back and forth on 19th Street, not have to get out on the state highway, not have to get out on the 23rd Street. And we think we can do that. So that's our plan, and we're committed toward following that through.
I appreciate all of that. I think overall it's an excellent plan. I mean, I think I've said it before, but I want to commend the city in general for taking this on. It really, I don't know if you view it that way, but we certainly view it that it's part of a package of preserving some of the farmland in the periphery of Lawrence. Using brownfields instead of green fields.
Mm-hmm.
It ties hand in hand with the Northeast Sector Plan and that whole area. So we think it's wonderful that the city's doing this. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks, Michael. Any more public comment on this public hearing?
Mayor, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing by Commissioner Shum, seconded by Commissioner Reardon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we adopt resolution number 7049.
Second.
Motion to adopt the resolution by Vice Mayor Amick, seconded by Commissioner Shum. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is to receive an update on Lawrence Venture Park development.
Evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Tasked with an update on what's happening out at Lawrence Venture Park. I want to give you a little history since two of the commissioners weren't on the commission when we acquired the property. So I thought I'd take us through a little history of how we got here, where we're currently at, and where we hope to be. Now, they mentioned 53 slides. These will be fast. One of the things that we were bound by the acquisition of the property was the consent order and everything that went with that. Chronology of events, some of the highlights were the actual acquisition of the property on September 29, 2010. I'd like to point out that we didn't pay for the property. It was an acquisition, plus we acquired $8.5 million in remediation funding. One of the other big items was the December 21st demolition project. Authorization of final payment for such demolition project was on April 24th. And then one of the other major awards was the intersection improvements at 23rd and O'Connell. And then the subsequent infrastructure, which is currently under construction now on March 26th. And then one of the ones I'm going to speak to later on in the presentation is the regional detention for the entire park. So we don't have lots of individual little detention basins. Start with the demolition. This particular aerial photo was about 2006 because of the, I know that because of the, how's that for fast?
Get the idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, before I make everybody sick, here. 2006, you can see a lot of the structures that were on site. 2009, they start to disappear. And then after our demolition project was pretty much underway and complete was 2012. And then an aerial photo from 2013. This would have been March or April of this year. Each one of these photos has got a before and an after picture just to give you an idea of what we had out there. Not all of these are at the exact same vantage point, and if the mouse wasn't moving each one of the slides, I'd point out the background. There's the big hot dog that was affectionately referred to. Three storage tanks up front. Obviously been removed, and the boiler house is probably the most unattractive thing on site.
It's amazing.
All the corresponding pipe rack. Through this side in here, in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the new Westar pad in the background. And then on to the fun stuff, remediation itself. With the acquisition of the property, the consent order bound us to follow the remedial action plan, which was the original remediation document on the site. From the RAP came the corrective action decision, which is what KDHE based all of their stuff on. So it was basically a condensed version of the remediation action plan. The consent order, one of the very first things we had to do was initiate a transition plan. So there were several things we had to do prior to the actual acquisition of the property, one of which was within 30 days of the signing of the consent order, we had to finish this transition plan. And then inside the transition plan is a soil waste management plan, which dictates how we use whatever soil's on site, how we treat that, how we move it, what we do with it. And then another condition of the consent order was to finish the remedial design, remedial action plan, which basically states what we're going to do with what was listed in the corrective action decision, and then how we're going to do it. And one of those initial things that was out of the RDRA plan was the interceptor trench work plan. I don't know if you're familiar with most of the groundwater monitoring wells we have around the site, but each one of these little yellow dots indicates a monitoring well, so we can keep track of where the groundwater is going off site. The remediation ponds that are in the center of this photo, there's an interceptor series of wells and sumps and pumps that we collect that water, and then we either put it in the overflow pond, which is the darker pond in the middle of the screen, and we pump it into that, or we collect it in the 2 above ground storage tanks, and then that is used in our land application program, that we can take that nitrate impacted water and put it on currently the sod fields north of the river. One of the other things that we have completed was the original sanitary sewer system that the plant had. We have plugged all those lines, flushed them out, cleaned them out, so that's one of the things that we've completed. Another one was the new electrical system we put on the north side of the site so we could have redundancy on our sumps and pumps. When we first took it over, we were having breakers trip and fuses pop, so we worked with Westar and got a more reliable electrical system, and it's also redundant in the fact that it's east and west are separated, so we don't lose the entire site if we lose one thing. The best part about this is Westar owns all the lines, so we are no longer responsible. So if one of the lines goes down, Westar comes out and fixes it. There are 4 areas I wanted to touch on the remediation: Central Ponds area, the RCRA site, which was the old CRS unit, the crumb reduction system, the landfills we have on site, and then regional detention. The Central Ponds area, see if I can move the red, is right through here. Little contours for you to get some idea where the ponds are, what it looks like vaguely today. This yellow line here represents the interceptor trench, which will collect all the nitrate impacted water that's seeping out of the side of the hill. And the reason there's water or nitrate impacted water in the hill is in 1966, this is what that aerial photo is from, they had all their process ponds up there and they weren't quite good at keeping the water in the pond. So they leached into a sandstone hill, and now it's coming out the down gradient. It's an aerial view of what it looks like. So that plan is complete. The only thing we have yet to do is KDHE has said they want to come out and take some additional geoprobes, maybe fine tune that plan a little bit, but I anticipate that we'll have that done by this spring.
The interceptor trench plan?
Okay. Next thing on the docket here would be the RCRA site. So 23rd and O'Connell's down here with a little red arrow. So to give you an idea of where the RCRA site is, it's right there. Each one of these monitoring wells, we do a quarterly evaluation on. This is the impacted area for low pH. That's what we have at this particular location. The only 2 major things we have on site are the nitrate impacted water, and then we have low pH at this site. So all the exterior monitoring wells that you see outside the farthest circle are 6.0. So what we're looking for a pH is 6.0 or above. So basically we're looking at about, a little less than an acre inside here that's impacted. One of the things I'll talk about here in a minute is the landfill to the east, the lime sludge landfill. What we'd like to do with that is take the impacted soils out of the lime sludge landfill, bring them over to this site, mix them in with the in situ soils here, and then remediate our low pH. So landfills over on the east side, the insulation landfills dictated by or indicated by the yellow. The solid waste landfill is the purple, and then the lime sludge landfill is the blue. And once again, I point out that we're trying to solve some of the problems we have on site with some of the other problems we have on site. So the lime sludge would have to go somewhere with, as all 3 of these would, with a prospective tenant on this particular parcel. We take that, instead of trucking it off site to Deffenbaugh or Hams, we save the money, truck it roughly 1,000 feet across, and then use it to help remediate a current problem we have. And then it's just a layout of what our existing ponds are and the names that they have. The west extension pond, the west effluent pond, and the east effluent pond are going to be regraded into regional detention for the entire site. One of the major things other than the RCRA site is the sludges on the bottom of the west effluent and east effluent ponds. And so when we redo this into regional detention, all of the sludges from those two ponds will go over to the East Lime Pond, and then we can have regional detention at the site. And that was 53 slides.
You should name those ponds something more creative. Like the
There's
Seven
actually one
Dwarfs,
called
there's
the Dam
1,
Pond
2,
that's
3,
west
4,
of the
5.
Bag Warehouse.
Sleepy, grumpy, dopey.
When you move that-
There's 7 of them, so.
When you move that sludge over to the far east side, how is that, what's going to happen to that? I mean, is that a caustic material now?
Yeah, it's got some heavy metals in it. It's what we believe is in the bottom 2 or 3 feet of that, the sludge that's in those ponds. What we'll do is we'll put them in the East Lime Pond and then we'll cap it.
So it's just going to be buried there for,
Correct.
for a long time?
Correct.
Good.
This area will probably never be developed.
I heard that.
Any other questions?
No, that's great, thank you. I hope you new commissioners, and of course, I always like to see progress, and this is a big deal, so I appreciate putting this together, and it's on the website, I think, so.
Yep.
You can, if anyone wants to see the progress that's been made, it's substantial, so thank you very much, appreciate the help on this.
Just quick comments, Mayor, if I can. A lot of credit to Matt and Chuck, a lot of other staff members, Alan Rogers, that are working on this. As we have planned, we have been able to save money by doing a lot of the work internally. So appreciate that. You see how much money we have left. We think we're in really good shape as we try and budget some of the major items that we got scheduled to get complete here in the coming weeks and months. We think we're in really good shape on the remediation funds as well. So that's to their credit, and I think the commission's credit for acquiring the property. We've been good stewards of that money. We're still going to have discussions as you asked us to do with KDHE management in regards to some of the items that we found during our infrastructure installation that we think should be appropriately paid for with remediation money. And we think that it's accomplishing what you thought, a good overview of what's happening. I think would be a good way to introduce that fact that we're in good shape in regards to our plans.
Yes, I think it helps buffet that opinion that we have been good stewards of the money, and we need it in order to help stay on track, because you've done a substantial job with what we know. We don't know what else might be out there when we start turning dirt, but I think we're in a good shape to handle that. And I'd like to set the tone with KDHE for those types of remedial activities to be paid for, because I think that's the intent of the money, is to clean up contamination. I don't think it needs to be strictly drawn to nitrogen. You know, this was a hot potato that nobody wanted, and we took it over, and I think are caring for it, wisely.
We think so as well. My speculation is that they may ask us to go back and change some of the previous documents to reflect that fact, which we probably can do with their direction. So we're going to be working on that.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Matt. Is there public comment of a general nature? Yes?
Good evening once again. I'm speaking in this regard about Forest Sustainability Action Network, not-for-profit that I work with. We've been working on a proposal for some bicycle facilities, specifically regarding the Burroughs Creek Trail, but also other feeder bicycle facilities for that. We've drawn up a proposal for the city. We've been talking with various stakeholders in the eastern neighborhoods, anybody from the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association President, Tony Krisnick, Susan Tate, I mean, all kinds of people over there. Basically, I'm just wondering, is this something we can request to have an agenda item so I and/or these various other people can come and talk to this issue?
We can have anything we want on the agenda, Michael. So what is it that you want the topic to be exactly?
Well, it's a proposal specifically to extend the Burrows Creek Trail north, which the Burrows Creek Trail plan calls for. It doesn't specify exactly where and how.
Okay.
Commissioner Shum has some ideas about this already, and every now and then it gets mentioned the northeast connection, because the trail does fork.
Yes.
Through the new restruct property, Brook Creek Park, past the sewage treatment plant to a bridge that theoretically could be the bridge for the new water line to feed farmland industries. It's all tying together here. The bridge could cost about $1 million or so. Burrowing that water line under the river is going to be about $1 million. So we're thinking this is a possibility to extend the trail, connect with the levee. It includes a number of things like that, as well as a connector, complete streets connection from 9th and Delaware to downtown. There's various elements here.
Okay.
So it's something that I think maybe needs to be more vetted more publicly.
Okay, well, we can certainly do that.
Well, and also, the cultural district is wrapping up its study, and in that you'll hear that there is an opportunity for us to perhaps build a main corridor down 9th Street so that there can be pedestrian traffic between the downtown and the new, whatever the warehouse arts district is, if that's the proper name for it. And then also any galleries or accessory buildings along the way. So that, of course, would fit into what you're talking about in terms of 9th Street bicycle opportunities. You said 9th Street, didn't you?
9th Street, yeah.
Yeah, 9th. So, I mean, there's that, and then there's, in that report also, I don't want to tell you the whole report here, but there is a support for the Burrows Trail to the north and west, as well as to the east, so.
Okay.
It's got a lot of things going.
Who he, Michael?
We have Michael in the group.
We have our conscience here.
Yes. So, Bob, since you've already been working on this, do you want to try to schedule a meeting with Michael and staff and kind of talk about where we're at?
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Sherman, I've talked a little bit about that. I think it'd be good to have
Yeah.
staff meeting to flesh out a number of these different issues, and then we can have it on the agenda with a lot more information than,
Well, and to get
we would
a
otherwise.
handle of all the stakeholders that may be involved in
No,
this thing too.
I think it's a good idea.
I wouldn't necessarily think all the stakeholders have to be conferring with staff or whatever.
No.
But for a public meeting.
At a public meeting.
Then everybody can have an opportunity.
But we need to identify who they are,
Yeah.
and you have all that information. It
Yeah,
sounds
we
like
have
you've done.
about 18 people signed on already.
Yeah.
All right.
So you and I and a staff member
Okay.
can meet, and we'll try and find the correct topic for an agenda item.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Additional public comment of a general nature?
But not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay. Future agenda items?
No meeting next week,
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
and then we'll be working to wrap up a number of different items here in the coming weeks for the rest of the year.
Okay. And commission items? I mean, I think you've got a few things to talk about.
Two, wanted to update you on the meeting that the mayor and I had with Dave Corliss, Craig Weinog, Tony Wheeler, Chuck Souls, and Commissioner Nancy Thellman, with 8 members of the tribal council yesterday here at City Hall. It was a short meeting, not at all. Very long meeting, but very productive. We had some great conversations. First, Chuck did a masterful job of relaying the development challenges with that land as it related to infrastructure and cost, and the Northeast Sector Plan, our Land Development Code, the North Lawrence Drainage Study, and how much all of that was going to cost if they were in fact to develop it to the scale that perhaps they were thinking of developing it before. And so Chuck laid out all those concerns, and it became very apparent, I think, to them that this was a very significant venture that I'm not sure they had a real good idea about prior to their purchase of the property. So then we kind of started changing the conversation to talking about next steps for what we could do on that land. And of course, we talked about the Northeast Sector Plan that was unanimously passed by this commission last year, and the county commission as well, and how that land is type 1 soil. It's really best used for ag-related purposes. And so essentially we started talking about that and potential partnerships that could result as a way of innovative food hub type programming with the Native Americans, with perhaps the University of Kansas, with the Land Institute, et cetera. There was some conversation towards the middle of that meeting about what that would take and what that would look like. And so that's something that Commissioner Thelman and I are going to be working through, and would invite your input in relationship to what those partnerships could look like on that land as far as food hub related things. Bob would be curious to get your input and feedback. It was that, remember, we received that kind of footprint that they were going to put their campus that they had in Bartlesville here, and that's really not an option anymore. They did talk about like a 7,500 square foot office building that potentially could have some classroom space, lab space for agricultural food hub related type activities. Something with a light footprint, because I think they understand the development challenges with this land now. And so we gave them all of that information, and then we started talking about things in relationship to a casino. They did tell us that they have signed a development agreement with River Trails to develop a casino in Kansas. But they get to decide where that goes. So they will get to decide whether it's Lawrence or somewhere else. And it became very apparent to me, at least, and you can speak for yourself on this, but the more we talked to them, the less and less it seemed like that was something that was going to happen here in Lawrence. I mean, if I had to put a wager on it, I would say that that's not something that's going to happen on that piece of property. And so that's really, really exciting news that you know, we're going to be able to protect the land and have something really innovative, hopefully. And now we've just got to continue those conversations as far as to what those particular things are. You know, so I don't know what else you have to add, but I mean, it was a very productive meeting, I thought, a very good conversation. And
yeah, the thing that I think came out of the meeting for me was an understanding that they want to work with the community, they want to work with Haskell Indian Nations University, they want to work with the county, they want to work with the existing food-related providers here, whether it's growing food or getting it to people who need food. It seems like that's something they care a lot about, and I think they want to be part of serving people. So that is something that they want to do in Lawrence for sure. All the other activities that people have speculated about or are concerned about don't seem to be in the front of their mind in Lawrence. It could happen somewhere else, but I agree with you. I think it's probably unlikely to happen here.
And you know, we flat out asked them the question. I mean, is a casino coming? And the answer we got was, you know, not there. And I mean, that was kind of my sense. And so we had some great conversations. And the other thing that I'll say is they're going to come here sometime in the next month. We talked about having a public meeting where they would come here and hear the concerns of the neighborhood. And their big thing is they didn't want to come here to basically say, we don't have a plan for what we're going to do. Because even with this agricultural stuff, it's really not a formal plan. It's just kind of an idea. And so kind of our feedback to them, and Mike did a great job, was even if you don't have a plan, just the fact that you know that that's precious land, you know that it has development challenges, you know that a casino is not going to go there, you know that you'd like to do some agricultural related stuff, that's something that we feel like we need to tell the community and that we need to have a conversation about. And gosh, my sense is that if that's the direction that everything's going to go with that piece of property, that people really aren't going to be that upset about it. My sense is that that's the case anyway. I think people will be really excited about it, actually. And so there's all I have to say about that.
Yep.
Good, thank you for doing it.
Second thing is, I would like to propose that we send the Wicked Fiber proposal to the Public Incentive Review Committee for evaluation, to get feedback from that committee, and then to, take whatever next steps.
Yeah.
Go forward from
I
there.
appreciate that. I'd already talked to Dave about, talking to Diane about trying to figure out a way to formulate a question for PERC to answer. And I think that's what we need to do, is we need to propose the question so that we can actually act on something, because it's something that we need to do. It's just a matter of figuring out how to vet it appropriately based on our normal procedures for the Public Incentive Review Committee, because it's not one of our typical.
Sure.
It's another strange one, and I think if we're able to get the lighting company taken care of, hopefully we can get this one through and make people understand what the costs and the benefits are. So I'm 100% in favor of that. So we'll do that.
We'll work to get a PERC meeting scheduled.
Sometime maybe in the next 30 days.
Sure, absolutely. Just the mayor and vice mayor are on it, so we'll just need to work with their schedules and check with the other PERC members. It's a little bit different in that all the costs are on the city, so we'll work to get it ready.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is that all right? I mean, what?
Mayor, could I just make one comment?
Sure, please.
On the future, there's a memorandum of intent with Douglas County and University for the Campus Village Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
It's a group that I've been associated with. Things are moving very well with that, and it would be of benefit if we could sometime this month put that on the agenda just for support for that. I think that would be helpful. There's a lot of activity there, and some neat things can come out of that. So.
That's the memorandum of intent. So let's put it on the last November.
We've been waiting for Dennis to tell us when to do it, so
Okay.
it sounds like it's ready to go.
Yeah,
Or you can do it while I'm gone if you want as well. I mean, it's up to you guys. If you want it
It's
sooner, the better.
non-economic cost, but could be a tremendous benefit for the community.
Okey doke. Any other commission items?
If you hurry, we'll make it out of here. before
Okay,
10.
nothing to talk about on the calendar. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, motion by Shum, seconded by Farmer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passed 5-0. We're out. Thank you. Have a good
Yeah, you
night.
did it by 10. See?
Before 10.
Just like what you